Good morning to you. HawkFanatic.com, brought to you by Dr. Lance Forbes, Diamond Dental in Cedar Rapids, Wild Rose Casino in Clinton, Streets Maintenance, the Oxyoke Inn in the Amanas, Premier Automotive in North Liberty, the Sanctuary Pub on South Gilbert, Harty and Stocker Jewelers 101 South Dubuque Street, downtown Iowa City, the Midtown Family Restaurants, Supple's Flowers, home of 1-800-800-ROSE. GT Car and his great crew at Supple's Building and Remodeling. Mike's E-Keys for cars. Steve Anderson, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. And Patrick Eads and his staff at Deary Brothers Ford on Mormon Trek. Here's Tom Suter, Pat Harty from HawkFanatic.com. And Coach Don Patterson.
All right, Coach, good morning. On November 20th, 1896, Grinnell College came to Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes at Iowa Field. What did that game have in common with Iowa's game Saturday?
I'd be cheating if I answered because they announced it after the game.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Donnie, do you know the answer?
I have to admit, I'm not aware. What would that answer be?
Be the score? 15-6.
Yeah, Matt Weitzel.
Same exact score.
Yep, Matt Weitzel gave us that little tidbit.
Did it involve a touchdown, a PAT, 2 field goals, and a safety? Was that combination in play?
That I do not know.
I don't think they had that information. I'm sure it's available, though, if you did enough research.
I'm sure it is.
Probably so. Let me say this, guys, and I bet you might agree with me. Those listeners that are old enough to remember, I realize the game played out. This reminds me so much of 1981.
Yeah.
Think back to 1981, an offense that was anything but spectacular. Honestly, nothing special at all, but at least that understood it was critical that they protect the ball. We did a great job protecting the ball in 81. Our guys are doing a great job protecting the ball this year on offense, too. We had a freshman kicker back then by the name of Tommy Nickel. Everybody remembers 9-7 over Michigan. Mm-hmm. 3 field goals by a freshman kicker. We've got a sophomore kicker in Drew Stevens that's as reliable as anybody that we'll ever have in place kicking. And then, of course, we have a defense that reminds me so much of that 81 defense. Think back to guys like Andre Tippett, Mark Bortz, Bobby Stoops, Todd Simonson, Mel Cole. Yeah. It was just a bunch of ornery guys that just played. Yeah, it really. They just played lights out. They were physically tough guys. They were going to, really beat up on the other team. And you saw our guys beat up on Wisconsin on Saturday.
The one difference though, I think you guys had a tougher schedule back then than the current schedule.
That is true.
Because I think the Big Ten was a little better than this particular West Division year. But that's not Iowa's fault. I mean, Iowa's going to be favored, barring any unforeseen developments. They're going to be favored in these last 5 games. Illinois went and won at Maryland. So, they do have life. I did not see that coming. But, Don, this schedule is so favorable. And the way Iowa takes it one game at a time, my biggest threats right now are Rutgers and Nebraska, those 2 games. But if you look at it, this team could go 11-1 with a horrible offense. I mean, think about that. Now, did you ever think you'd see that?
It's difficult to do, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You better have the world's best punter, and I think we do have.
Yes.
The world's best punter. You better have a defense. This defense might not be quite as talented as last year's, but you're kind of splitting hairs, really.
Yeah.
And I will say this defense. You talk about a bunch of headhunters. These guys. Let's start off with Sebastian Castro. He's been a little bit back in the wings of the operation, so to speak, but he really shined on Saturday. Played a great football game, and he was just one of many that did. We have so many on defense that are all stepping up and making plays, and of course we have to have that because we're simply not that talented, not that healthy on offense.
And I think Sebastian's playing as good as, Cooper DeJean included right now. He might be playing the best of all the D-backs. And he's having a great season. I was thinking about that coming home from him. He might be playing all Big Ten-like football. He was great on the field. His ability to tackle an open field, Don, which you talk about a lot, is so impressive. He never seems out of position. And, the Wisconsin offense I know they lost their quarterback, but they weren't doing anything with their starting quarterback. I actually thought the backup came in and kind of gave Iowa a couple looks they weren't as prepared for. But then, Mordecai wasn't doing much, was he, against that defense, Don?
Well, I did mark that. I have 7 huge plays in the course of the game, and one of those plays was the play that eliminated Mordecai.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of them, because I did think it was significant. And I think the backup did okay. Mm-hmm. But I think Mordecai would have given him a better chance.
I think he would have given him a better chance. He just wasn't playing very well, I didn't think, when he got hurt.
Yeah, let me just pull up. It was a hit by Higgins. 1:48 before the half. Mordecai indicates he's got a hand injury. That was the third huge play of the game, and 7 of those huge plays, 4 of them belonged to the defense. There were 2 huge field goals, of course, and then, of course, the 82-yard touchdown run. But Jay Higgins' helmet came into play. Mm-hmm. Great job of closing by Jay. Just a kind of a fluke injury, but the hand hits the helmet, and Mordecai realized, I can't throw a football.
He slammed his helmet down. When he got to the sideline, he slammed his helmet down because I think he knew he was done for the day. I think he knew he wasn't going to be able to come back. Yeah,
and the first half, talking about stymieing Mordecai, Mordecai had some nice plays in there, but here's what's telling. Third downs in the first half, Wisconsin's 0 for 8.
Yep, 2 for 17 overall.
If we got it down to a critical down, they failed in all eight opportunities.
Yeah.
And let me tell you one reason they failed. In some cases, they needed 8 and they gained 7. And a lot of the time, it was an open field tackle, so often by number 29. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times he had a key tackle in the open field that left him a yard or 2 short.
I marked down 4.
And it wasn't like, he's tackled Braden Allen, for Christ's sake. That guy's a hard guy to get on the ground. But Castro did it time and again. He wasn't the only one, of course. If you want to talk about the first key play in the game, it's another tackle on their star running back, except this time it was a cornerback lightning by Cooper. Produces -2. That was on 4th and 1.
That was big.
And Cooper would say, "Well, I got to tip my cap to our play caller, because he's the guy that realized we're going to fire our corner, and with a little bit of luck, he's going to be in the backfield untouched." And that's exactly what happened.
About midway through the second quarter, I tweeted, it felt like Wisconsin was a team built to run that was trying to become a passing team. And Iowa looked like a team that just does what it does all the time, and every once in a while it works with the rushing like it did Saturday. I just don't think Wisconsin's built to play the way they want to play right now. And that's what Kirk brings up a lot when we ask him, well, you just can't switch. Well, they're trying to just switch. I thought they would have been better off trying to run the ball more. They had some success, but it just seemed like they were content on trying to beat Iowa in space, and it just didn't work. Do you see any of that, Don, or am I way off base?
No, you're correct. I believe if it's something like this, 14 of the first 17 plays were pass plays.
Yeah, and Iowa ran his first 7 plays.
And it's not like they're chopped liver with the running game.
No.
It's really kind of hard to figure why they went so heavy for pass to start the game, but they did. One reason maybe they did have the wind at their back, as I understand it. Wasn't the wind out of the north in general?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir.
And it's funny, since we're talking about early decisions, I made a comment with Kurt. We were just talking about coin toss and what to do with coin toss, things like that. And I said, well, one of the arguments for the coin toss, of course, when you defer, the other team typically takes the ball unless you're in a hurricane. Of course, they take the ball, which gives you the wind to start the game. And, of course, in our case, it would put our defense on the field if we deferred and they took the ball. Mm-hmm. But Kirk brought up a good point. He said, my only issue with that is we have a history of starting slowly on defense. Typically, if teams have a scoring drive against us, it might be the first one of the game.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. The first possession. And he said, I realize if we do take the ball, the pressure's on us. But really, if you think about it, we just need to make a first down or 2. And if we do that because of Torrey Taylor, we'll have a great chance to flip the field and give them even worse field position than what they would have after the opening kick if we kick to them. So sure enough, it worked out that way. We had 2 first downs. Excuse me, and then punted the ball away.
Well, speaking of Torrey, there's been some interesting discussion. I mean, I wrote a column prior to the game saying he was my midseason MVP, just like he would have been last year. I think it's hands down. There's other, I mean, Cooper DeJean, Sebastian Castro. There's other players, Jay Higgins. But to me, and Don, I want to ask you this. I mean, I hate to even compare to Reggie Roby because Reggie Roby's kind of like Niall Kinnick. He's just kind of somebody you just leave alone because he was so. But it was brought up to me that Torrey might even be a little better at pinning opponents deep than Reggie was. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
That is true, and I'll tell you, it's true. Reggie Roby did not pooch punt. Okay, Reggie has the NCAA record. It's 49.8. Mm-hmm. But Reggie didn't pooch punt. We had another guy that handled short punts. And, of course, Torrey handles all punts.
Yes, he does.
And some of his best punts are punts that he doesn't get much credit for yardage-wise. But was it the first or second punt that backed up from the 1 yard line to the 3?
That was amazing.
Yeah, I think it was the second one. That was incredible.
Yeah. So, Reggie's a great punter, don't get me wrong. But Torrey, in terms of multi-talented ways to punt a football, he clearly has the edge on Reggie because he's mastered the art of backing up that punt.
It is. It's amazing to watch because he's an artist out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. And let's not forget, too, here's another reason we have to value Torrey so much. He is absolutely outstanding at holding for place kicks.
Very true.
And you take stuff like that for granted. And the snap, what's it, Luke Elkin, the snapper, they make it look routine. I mean, but that takes a lot of practice, doesn't it, Don?
Yeah, another good point. You've heard me brag on Luke Elkin before. He is so reliable with his snaps. As a matter of fact, a week or two ago, I saw him at practice, and I said, who says a snapper can't make an open field tackle? Because he made an open field tackle.
Yes, he had.
On the previous Saturday on punt. So he actually hustles downfield after the snap, but his snaps are almost always on the money with good velocity. You know, if you're somebody like Wisconsin, you're thinking, well, let's just throw the kitchen sink at him in terms of punt rush. Go ahead, feel free to do it. You're not going to get there because the snap's too good and the get-off is too good. By get-off, I mean ability of Torrey to get the ball out quickly.
It was interesting.
It's almost impossible to block one of our punts.
It was interesting in the second quarter. Their fans were booing the offense.
They were.
It wasn't quite as heartfelt as the Iowa boos have been, but this has been a shorter period of frustration for the bat. But they're frustrated. I mean, and that team looks like it might have a few losses in it because, I mean, their injuries are big too. I mean, they miss Chaz Malusi. I mean, they just don't have a lot of
Absolutely.
Braylon Allen's built to run in a power team. If I'm someone like Braylon Allen, I'm like, what am I doing here? This isn't the Wisconsin I committed to. But he still had, almost 90 yards. But, Don, did you think Wisconsin's passing attack looked effective when Mordecai was in there? Just what were your thoughts on it when they were through the first 2 quarters?
Well, it still scared me a little bit because Mordecai can really rifle the ball and does throw with pretty darn good accuracy. And I was impressed with Green. That was
he did have some nice catches.
Nice play. And, they made some nice catches here and there. I would just simply say this. Let's not forget, if Mordecai plays the entire game, another issue for us would be his ability to extend plays.
Yes, that was my number one concern coming in.
Yeah, and the backup, even though the backup has a good arm, he's undersized. He's not the runner that Mordecai is. He doesn't have the savvy, of course. Mordecai played in so many games, that he'd thrown for 9,000 yards or something.
Yeah.
So he's a good player, and it did help us that he got eliminated from the game. Let's not forget that we lost an truly outstanding tight end as well.
Yeah.
So we both lost key players.
So we were down to tight ends number 4 and 5.
4 or 5. Yeah, Johnny Pascuzzi. We actually have a nice photo of Johnny, and his father reached out to me, a picture of him making a nice block on LaShawn. He's in, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's now, Addison Stringer's been out, so they're down to their 4th, 5th. Zach Owert, the freshman, played.
He made a great block.
He did, but that's the next man in. And, Don, you made a comment earlier this year. Man, if there's one area where they could maybe handle some depth injuries, you hate to see it happen, but it would be tight end, because I remember you saying, man, they've got 7 or 8 tight ends that look like they're ready to play.
Yeah, we have, of course, 2 of the very best in college football. They're both injured now.
Yeah.
But, nobody's going to feel sorry for us, so we'll carry on. And the one thing you can count on, both Luke and Eric are going to do everything they can to coach those guys up, just from a teammate standpoint. They obviously know the finer points of tight end play better than the other tight ends, but they'll get a lot of great coaching from Coach Hodge, and also a lot of great coaching from those injured tight ends too.
And if Eric is out for an extended period, which I'm hearing, and Kirk made it pretty obvious when he said it's not good, he's injured. He'll tell us more tomorrow. I'm sure some people will be out tweeting whatever they hear it is or whatever. But Eric, I think, played enough this year to help his cause. Hopefully, didn't you think he showed enough, Don, in half of a season? I mean, he's been playing pretty well.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if he has. Does he have another year available?
He has a COVID year available.
He does. I mean, he could use that, and as could Cade. Cade's already indicated he has. Kirk will probably tell us tomorrow if Eric's out for the rest of the year. But maybe do you think he's decided already what he's going to do for that? It'll be interesting to see. But he has a decent body of work this year. In 6 games.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good video of him making plays, of course. Not to mention a lot of good video of him as an effective blocker too. So I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe it'll hinge a little bit if Luke decides to come back. Maybe Eric will feel that's just one more reason he's okay to leave, because it'll be left in the good hands of Luke Lachey.
Sure.
We'd love to have Mose back, of course, but it may not work out that way. We're going to support them whatever they choose to do. But I'm just proud of both of them for the job they've done, and for the tradition has been carried on because of guys like Luke Lachey and Eric Hall. Tight end play is something special at Iowa, always has been and always will be, I suspect.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think they're both NFL tight ends, and I think ultimately it's going to come down to what the NFL's telling them. I mean, I completely get that, but I'd love to have them both back next year. But okay, so Don, they're coming into this Minnesota game now, and I'll tell you what, hopefully the players and coaches don't feel the way I do. I don't give Minnesota any chance of winning, but I can do that. I'm just a fan. I do. Of course, there's always a chance, but I'm not that worried about Minnesota, and that's kind of a scary feeling because I don't usually feel that way. How do you guard against that, Don and Tom?
I was just going to say Lisa Bluter has a better record in Kinnick Stadium than all of Minnesota's coaches this century.
Well, they've lost 9. They've lost 9 out of 10 against Iowa, and 8 in a row. So it's been PJ hasn't beaten.
The only thing that worries me, the one thing that does worry me a little bit, is simply the fact that they had a bye.
That's true. That's a good point.
That worries me for 2 reasons. One is at least a lot of minor injuries have a chance to heal up. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you lose a guy for the season, he's out and he's not coming back. But I would imagine the usual bumps and bruises that any team has after that bye, they have a little more spring in their step simply because they've had a chance to recover from the physicality of football. That concerns me that they're coming off a bye. The other thing that concerns me is it just gives Minnesota more time to plan for a game against Iowa. They had a chance to work on Iowa this week, and then, of course, after the Wisconsin game, they'll study that, and they'll maybe make some adjustments in their planning this particular game week also. So they got 2 weeks to get ready, not just one. But having said all that, we're back in Kinnick. I know one thing. I remember one time we at West Illinois, we were playing. We played a great football game against LSU to give them a little bit of a scare years ago, and they were such a great team. It was an inspired effort on the part of our team to even be in the game with them, of course. 1 week later, we played a much lesser opponent, and the thing I did, I told the players, I said, I'm not going to – I thought about reading some of these messages I got from LSU fans, reading them to you guys right after the game, a day or 2 after the game. I said I didn't do it because I knew if I did that, we wouldn't have a very good week of practice because your heads would be so big you wouldn't be able to fit them through the door. So I'm sitting here waiting until Friday night, the night before the next game, and I read some of those messages from LSU fans that had been LSU fans for 50 and 60 years, and they said, that was the most inspired opposition they'd ever seen. Comments like that. I read those to those players right before the next game. It happened to be against a team called Tennessee Martin, a lesser 1AA opponent. And I said, here's my request. Can you guys play with the same effort and enthusiasm tomorrow night against Tennessee Martin that you had for LSU? If you can do that, the game is going to be over by halftime. Halftime score was 42-0.
Wow.
So we did it, I think. I don't know that we played at the same level, but we approached it at least. We didn't have a letdown. That's the point. So all I would request of our football team is play with the same effort and enthusiasm against Minnesota that you had in Camp Randall.
And I think they will.
If you do that, it's not going to be much of a contest. We're going to win it and look comfortable doing it.
Well, the line sits at right now. Iowa's favored by 4.
Wow, I thought it'd be a little bit more, but nobody trusts the Iowa offense.
Yeah,
I would think the players would probably see that as kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, because you get 3 for hosting.
Yeah, maybe they'll give them a little extra motivation. But the announcers did correctly mention, they flashed up our schedule, and they said it's not hard to imagine Iowa's going to win every last one of these games. But the reality, too, with the way that they're forced to play football right now because of injuries on offense, it's not hard to imagine that all these games might be one-score games.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So we have to be on point against anyone and everyone.
I mean, I had Iowa 10-2 before the season.
Yeah.
Winning these last games, but losing against Wisconsin and Penn State. So, no, I mean, but I also didn't have them down to their 4th-team tight end and their backup quarterback. But they were winning with McNamara not playing very well. I mean, McNamara played a little better than Deacon Hill, but they have not gotten good quarterback play all year. No. And yet they're still winning, and they're winning with a formula that I think can work against these teams. Can it work against Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State? No. But you cross that bridge when it comes. And I disagree with. I've had some fans reach out to me and say, "Hey, if they win the West and get to the Big Ten and get crushed, I don't consider that a successful season." I disagree. Don, what are your thoughts on that as a former coach and now a fan? I disagree. If you win the West, that's something to be proud of. Well,
again, it kind of reminds me of the '81 season. We had a great defense that year. I believe they still have the record for scoring defense, if I'm not mistaken. But we were very average on offense. And we had a Cinderella season in so many ways. The only negative, of course, it ended up with such a disappointing loss in the Rose Bowl, but we still got there. I think a lot of people will give credit to the '81 team for defying the odds to even be there. And this team, of course, if we're playing in Indianapolis against an outstanding opponent from the Big Ten East, and you can bet it will be an outstanding opponent, then it'll be a huge accomplishment just to make it to Indianapolis. And anything that we're able to pull off, if we're able to play in that championship game, is just additional icing on the cake.
I agree. I'll tell you what, Michigan is playing really well right now. I mean, what was the Indiana score? You got any of you guys?
It was like 52-7 or something. I
mean, they're just
52-7. And the thing I couldn't help but notice, I was doing a game from the Missouri Valley. I saw the end of one quarter. It was 7-0 Indiana.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, I didn't see that one coming. And then the next thing I knew, of course, they scored 52 straight. So I guess the double pass, incidentally, we're back to thinking about exotics at key times. They run a double pass for a touchdown, and maybe Indiana wishes they hadn't done it because I think they probably made Michigan mad.
So, Don, how do you explain? I mean, I guess one way to kind of come down to earth with Iowa, Minnesota is I didn't give Illinois a chance of beating Maryland, and they did. Have you seen any of the game, Don? Do you know anything about what happened?
I haven't seen any of the game. I do know that there was some. Obviously, a clutch field goal at the end to win. Let's not forget that Maryland, as I recall, tied it up with a field goal just about 90 seconds earlier, I think.
Interesting.
And Illinois had to drive to break the tie, and did so. I don't know how the drive was put together. I haven't seen any of the game, but I do know that they were put to the test. The game is on the line, and they responded with the win. That's after laying an egg in so many ways against Nebraska.
And so their opponent next week, Wisconsin, goes to Illinois. That game could suddenly be very interesting.
I don't have a feeling either way now, just from what happened. I was not impressed. I mean, I was not impressed with Wisconsin, really. I thought their
Not
run,
really.
Don, I was not impressed with their run defense. Now, I give Iowa credit. We're talking about how this was like another offensive dud. When you rush for 200 yards, that is not an offensive dud. They didn't need their passing attack to win. I was very impressed with their running game. What do you think?
Well, I know one thing that impressed me, and of course you've heard me say that I think their running back is very, very likely going to be the highest drafted running back for sure out of the Big Ten. I think he'll probably go ahead of Corum. I think the way the pros look at it. But they're both outstanding backs. In my mind, those are the two best backs in the conference for what I've seen. But what impressed me, like we talked about earlier, they didn't run with the ball much at all early. But in that third quarter, you could tell they decided, listen, we got to be able to play like an old Wisconsin team. We got to run the ball down their throat. They tried to do that, and they had good success doing it in the third quarter. We gave ground grudgingly. We held them to a couple of field goals, thankfully. But here's what else impressed me in the third quarter. We had a guy on our side. Number 4 decided, I'm going to run maybe as tough as Braylon does. And he did. I don't think he could run I don't think Leshon could run any harder than what he ran in that third quarter.
He was impressive.
He looked really good.
A lot of physical contact, a lot of yards after contact. And I think our offensive line maybe took that as a challenge too. And I think we had a little better running lanes in the third quarter maybe than any other.
Yeah.
Let's also give credit to the O-line in the fourth quarter. I am aware we outrushed them in the fourth quarter too. Mm-hmm. And the yards didn't come easy, but we fought for a lot of yards, and I realized we didn't have many first downs to show for it. But still, just a few key first downs here and there, extend drives, and, of course, eat up a lot of clock, and that's what made some difference in the game. Otherwise, Wisconsin would have had another chance or two to score late in the game. But we shortened the game we actually controlled time of possession for the game.
And
we had a slight edge in time of possession. So that's good to see because that had been a problem for us. Our defense was struggling to get off the field. Our offense was struggling to stay on the field. This week we did a better job of grinding out first downs than we did certainly against Penn State, of course. Maybe their defense is not as good as Penn State, but they're still pretty darn good. They still fought hard to stop us, and we just persevered. We were just determined to run the ball and not give them many chances to interfere with our pass offense.
Another an injury they lost James Thompson, maybe their best defensive lineman early. He spent most of the first half riding his exercise bike. I don't know if he came back, but that was a big loss for them too. And I think that probably helped Iowa run the ball. Caleb Johnson was so close on like 2 plays of breaking it. You could hear an ankle tackle on one. And now Jazion Patterson's back in uniform. He's ready to go. I didn't think he would play Saturday, but my guess is they're getting healthy at running back at the right time.
Yeah, one thing I couldn't help but notice about Wisconsin, let's face it, we ran power and we ran our counter, and those are our 2 primary running plays. Mm-hmm. But our backs are smart enough to know, and they have good enough vision. If things are a little cloudy at the play side where the ball is supposed to go, they have a good knack of finding daylight on the backside. When I say the backside, if the ball starts left, then the backside would be back to your right. And several key runs, we bent the ball back away from where it was designed to go for good yardage. They were a little bit unsound with the way they were defending that backside of the formation, and we made them pay a couple of 3 times with good bent back runs, most of which, as I recall, were from Leshon.
He just ran so hard the entire game, and it was really fun to watch because Iowa really kind of out Wisconsin Saturday.
Yeah,
they did, but Wisconsin didn't try to beat Wisconsin.
No, he said Luke Fickell mentioned. He said we were beaten in pretty much all aspects of play. That's kind of a humbling thing for a coach to have to say, but I think he felt that way. I have not done the analytics on the game yet, but I'm confident in saying this. We won a lot more of the important parameters than what Wisconsin did.
No turnovers. Mm-hmm. No turnovers. That was huge. And no turnovers.
It starts with no turnovers, yes.
And winning the running game. To me, when you do that in your Iowa football, more times than not, it's hard to think of games where they ran for 200 yards and haven't won.
Well, and that helped balance the time of possession, too, because we haven't been able to run very well.
It also
this
helped
year.
keep the defense off the field.
Yes.
The defense was fresh for a lot of that
Yep.
game. I think Wisconsin got tired on defense. I was surprised to hear the booing this early. I mean, the guy's been the coach for a half a year. But, I mean, it just, like I said, it just looks like a team that's not built to do what they want to do, and it could be a rough transition.
Well, I talked to a lot of the Wisconsin fans, and they're kind of split. I mean, the smart ones know that it's going to take time, and they also know that Chris time he had passed his time there. They were clearly declining, and they needed to do something to change it up a little bit. But half of them say, this isn't Wisconsin football. We are big and we run the ball, and we're not playing Wisconsin football anymore. So they're kind of split. It's real interesting talking to them.
Yeah, to me, the game so much more than a lot of games. It was a game of big plays. But having said that, who made the big plays? Iowa made almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Now, I mean, Braylon Allen made something poor Schulte that time he ran over Quinn Schulte. That was an NFL back doing that. Now, is this his second or third year? Isn't this just his second year?
I think so.
I think he's got to come back for another year. I don't believe that rule has changed.
Sure.
But either way, I mean, I just think he's being not used the right way with what he brings to the offense. But that's their concern now. Iowa's got great momentum coming. What do you think of Brian's play calling, Don?
Well, I think we were very, very conservative, but I think we recognized that's going to give us our best chance. We're playing with the backup quarterback. We've lost two of our most reliable receivers, of course, and our tight ends. Our defense is playing lights out. Let's give them a chance to shine for all 60 minutes. Our kicking game is superior. We're going to win every time we trade punts. We're going to pick up some field position. So let's just be sure we don't beat ourselves. And it was working. It reminds me so much of some games we had, especially back in '81, because that was a rock solid defense. So much like this one. I give a huge amount of credit to Phil Parker. You got to give Phil a lot of credit. Remember we weren't getting a lot of pressure early on. We've gotten a little more innovative with pressure, and so much of our pressure involves more than four rushers. They had a lot of trouble with we brought our linebackers quite a bit, but we just don't bring them in terms of vanilla aspect of how to rush the quarterback. We're involving them in a lot of weak stunts. You'll see that defensive end that'll maybe charge inside, and then the linebacker that'll loop around him to the outside. So we're not rushing in all the traditional rush lanes that you might expect players to show. There are other times when we would rush our linebackers inside, and then confuse the guards a little bit by taking those guys lined up inside over the guards and rushing them through the outside shoulder of the guards, and the guards tend to think they have to lock onto them. And the only problem with that is we got two linebackers that are rushing the A-gaps. And now there's a problem. There's only one back there to pick up two linebackers. That's a problem. You can't get suckered with those rush angles changing a little bit and getting too locked on. Those guards were victimized by that a little bit too. So we're just creative with the way we're rushing. Let's not forget, here's another huge play. Number 29 is coming off the edge. We're down near we got them backed up in the black zone, as we call it, that part of the field that's near the wrong goal line if you're playing offense. And I do wonder, remember this, we took a timeout on I believe it must have been second down, second and long, whatever it was, second and 8 or 9 or something. And I'm sorry, I took a timeout shortly before the third down play. That's what it was. Took a timeout out before they snapped the ball on third down. And the very next time the ball was snapped, here came Castro off the edge, untouched, into the backfield. Remember that?
Yes.
And I do wonder, and I just saw Phil do it also for that other safety we picked up a few weeks ago. He brought a secondary stunt, trying to create a safety, and sure enough, Castro gets home, and the ball's out. and now they fell on the ball, but of course, White had a huge play on that particular ball. Of course, the ball came out with his hit, and then a Wisconsin lineman fell on it. Otherwise, of course, it would end up as a touchdown for us. But they were able to fall on it and keep it to a 2-point play.
This is Braylon Allen's third season.
It is his third,
he will be able
go.
to get
So
drafted.
did he redshirt? He must have redshirted, because I don't remember him playing or did he?
He reclassified. His first year was 21 because he was supposed to be in the 22 class.
But was he there featured back in 21? Or maybe I'm just.
I think Malusi started
Malusi was
to
at
be.
Clemson in 21, I believe.
No,
wasn't
he was. He
was here in 21?
and Jalen Berger were their running back because Braylon Allen was supposed to be probably on defense.
Well, yeah, they recruited him as a linebacker. Yeah, I'm forgetting a year then, but yeah, he could go pro. My guess is he will, if his stock is high enough. But you mentioned earlier that Minnesota has had that bye week. If you're PJ Fleck, what are you emphasizing on offense to try to compete against this Iowa defense with what you have?
Well, I don't know enough about Minnesota. Honestly, I do know they have an inexperienced quarterback, a fairly young guy. They lost, of course, I think a really good tight end, a really good wide receiver, of course, an exceptional running back. Mm-hmm. So they've definitely had some graduation losses. I just don't know enough about their team right now. They're struggling in a lot of ways. The only thing that worries me, I'm always nervous around coaching staff that has an extra week to prepare for the next game, because you've always heard me say about our own offense, a challenge to the offensive staff is you need to be as innovative as you can be. You need to just continue to study and ask that old question, what if? What if we did this? What if we did that? Do we get any ideas from this particular game? Let's go back and look at a game that was a month ago that proved to be problematic for them. Prime example for the Wisconsin preparation would have been to go back and look at Washington State, because that was their one loss. Mm-hmm. Is there something Washington State did that we can learn from? So Minnesota's had time to do that. They've had the extra week of preparation. So that concerns me because obviously their backs are against the wall. They need to come out and somehow come up with some kind of signature win because they're struggling. And they're motivated, I'm sure. So that's the challenge we face. They have more time to prepare for us than we have to prepare for them. And that simply means, we've got to you only have so many hours to prepare, but you got to do the best you can to make every last hour count. And I'm sure that's what our guys are doing right now in preparation for Minnesota.
Of course, now we play Minnesota for the Floyd Rosedale Trophy. Do the trophies matter to the players?
I think they do, absolutely, because they're put in prominent location in the building. The players are reminded all the time. How many of our traveling trophies do we have? Because they're all going to be right there proudly on display. Mm-hmm. And it's a fun time, to be able to go across the field and reclaim a trophy that you lost. That's a good feeling. And if you just get to hang on to the one you already have, that's a good feeling also, because it is a huge matter of pride. Incidentally, those trophy games, as I recall, our schedule is going to be impacted going forward because I believe the Big Ten recognizes, this is a history that should continue. Mm-hmm. Iowa versus Minnesota, Iowa versus Wisconsin, Iowa versus Nebraska, no different than Purdue versus Indiana. I'm sure that game will be played every year. And I think we're the only team, I believe, in the Big Ten that has 3 protected rivals.
That's correct.
That is true, and I'd rather have them against those 3 than Penn State,
Ohio State, and Michigan,
and Ohio State.
You're right. That gives us maybe, on average, a little better chance at a schedule that's a little more able to be handled. None of those games are easy, of course. I'm not saying that, but
no, nor am I.
But let's face it. If you happen to run into any of about half a dozen opponents, who we said there's going to be more than 6. There's going to be at least 7 there's 3 in the East right now that are formidable, and of course you got 4 teams coming in from the Pac-12 that are formidable too.
And USC looked pretty. I didn't see the game at all, but it sounds like Notre Dame just
They
completely shut them down on offense.
Notre Dame looked pretty good too.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame's going to be, and then Notre Dame loses at Louisville, and I believe Louisville lost to Pittsburgh.
Yes, they did.
So you can't Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why you hear me say we shouldn't take any opponent for granted.
You're
We're not
right.
going to do that. Our guys are too smart for that. The coaches are going to remind them their games that were played just 2 days ago that they can point to. Don't let us be victimized like SC was versus Notre Dame. What was the final? I don't even know how that game turned out.
Notre Dame won pretty handily.
Solidly. I can't remember the score, but it was pretty solid.
And I believe Caleb Williams had.
You say Notre Dame won it?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, they won easily. Caleb Williams had less than 200 yards.
I did not realize that.
He threw
that's just a reminder to all of us as older adults. These are young people. They're in their early 20s, and they don't maybe have quite the same consistency as a guy playing in the NFL for 10 years. But even having said that, the NFL has major upsets every weekend too. So the bottom line, you got to respect all opponents, fear none. You better be ready to go. I don't care who you're playing, because anybody's capable of getting you.
And it is Notre Dame, by the way, 48, USC 20.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a complete beatdown. Now, USC's defense isn't very good. I mean,
No, they're not.
He's going to have to fix that defense, or they're even Iowa might be able to. Iowa could run on their defense. I think. I'm not sure about much beyond that, but it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to be as easy for USC the way they're built. Plus, I don't think they'll have Caleb Williams next year. That's going to be...
plus, coming into some of these Midwest states in November, that's going to be a slap in the face to a lot of these kids that haven't played.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, true. And let's not forget, it's going to be a little bit of a burden for them just to travel.
Oh, sure. Big time.
Yeah, they're going to play 9 conference games. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of hard to imagine that at least maybe 6 of them won't be, well, I guess that's not true. They won't be played in the Midwest or on the East Coast, but it's safe to say maybe at least 3 or 4 of them are going to be
every year. Yeah.
Games that are going to involve significant travel.
They're going to play either 4 or 5 Big Ten road games every year, and just by percentages.
If they're lucky, 2 of them will remain on the West Coast. Probably only 1 though.
Well, they'll get their 4 or 5 home games every year, so they'll get those. But then they're also going to have to play almost that many on the road. So yeah, that's just something they've gone from going to Arizona, Oregon, Washington. Now they're going to be going to Maryland, New Jersey. I mean, it's just going to be a completely different life for those guys. It's going to be interesting to see because USC's not as good as I thought they were going to be this year. And Lincoln Riley's had teams that are really good on offense, but they've struggled on defense. So we'll see. And who won between Washington and Oregon? I did not see the end of that.
Washington.
They did end up winning. Hell, Michael Penix might be the favorite for the Heisman right now because Caleb Williams really hurt his cause.
Did you think you'd ever say that after the thrashing Iowa gave them a couple of years ago? It gave Indiana?
No, and I want to say one last thing about Wisconsin. When I look at Wisconsin, I'm not saying gloom and doom, but Mordecai's obviously not going to be back, I don't think. Does he? With COVID, he might have 3 more years left. I can never. But if Mordecai's gone and Braylon Allen 3 years, I would be surprised if he comes back. This is going to be an interesting 2 or 3 year stretch for Luke Fickell and the Badgers, don't you think, Don? Because he's making. I mean, it's. I don't know. I mean, they were so good for so long with the stuff that Barry did, and now those days are gone.
Yeah, let's not forget, Wisconsin's success was built very much like our success was built. They were a developmental program.
Yep.
They don't win the recruiting battles as far as the recruiting experts go. They typically get players and they develop them, a lot of which, of course, come from the state of Wisconsin or surrounding states. So they're a developmental program very much like we are. And it's going to be hard for them to change that, I think.
Yeah, and Braylon Allen, I looked. He ran for 1,200 yards as a freshman, but I thought he even played a little linebacker, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they moved him to running back right when he got to Wisconsin, but he was recruited as a linebacker because that's what most of his rankings were as a linebacker. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he played running back right away, and it'll be interesting. Do you think he's back next year for a 4th year? If the NFL's saying, hey, you got a chance. Although running backs aren't really coveted in the NFL either, though. Rarely do they get drafted very high. So it could be interesting. The other thing I could see, not to start the Badger Bowl, could you see someone like him transferring? to a different school in this age if he doesn't like how he's fitting into that offense.
Well, in this day and age, you never know.
I would think the more likely scenario is he simply declares for the draft.
Okay.
I'll tell you one reason I say that. It's safe to say a lot of the way the NFL looks at running backs, a guy that's got too many carries in his college career, that's a red flag for them. They'd like to have a guy that hasn't been worn out as a college running back.
That's a really good point. And he does have a lot of carries, and my guess is he'll have a lot more carries. That backup looked okay, but he's not Ches Malusi.
No, he isn't. They really missed him.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, you're right. I watched him with interest. Our guys had no trouble getting him on the ground.
No, he's a big kid.
He's a big, strong guy, but he's not that elusive.
No.
And just tackle him low, and he'll go down every time. And I don't know if you can say that about Braylon Allen because just ask Schulte. He's a load to get on the ground.
Yeah, I mean Quinn had the perfect form. He head up and he was shoulder pads leading, and he just ran him over. But he's 250 pounds. But yeah, I thought the play calling. Iowa came out and ran 7 straight running plays for 36 yards. The drive ended up fizzling, but I thought early on, I looked and I'm like, man, they've already got 36 yards rushing on their first possession. They're getting a little bit of a surge. I like what Brian did, Don, because he recognized that they could run the ball and he stayed with it. I mean, you can call it conservative, playing not to lose, but this is a game where they had to play not to lose, personnel-wise. I didn't have any problem with Brian. I don't care how many points they scored.
None.
I thought Brian did an okay job as coordinator.
Well, the way the way the game unfolded, it made a lot of sense. And Kirk and Brian, I'm sure, had discussions about what to do going forward. It was just so obvious that our defense was playing at an elite level, and Wisconsin was without their quarterback. And obviously we're playing with a guy that doesn't have much experience taking snaps. So let's just not shoot ourselves in the foot. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's what Kirk said. I know it's not going to be very pretty. We threw 4 passes in the second half, as I recall. 4 in the third quarter, none in the fourth.
Nope. And it worked.
So we were determined. Now, one cautionary note for us going forward, I promise you this. It's not hard to imagine, and you've heard me say this before, a team that has one clear strength, you try to make them play left-handed, and that's assuming that everybody thinks right-handed people are the norm. But you got to make them play a way they don't feel comfortable playing. So in the case of Iowa, you got to almost dare them to throw. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? You've got to put a lot of people dedicated to stopping the run near the football. You got to load the box. You got to clearly leave one-on-one coverage outside and dare them to throw. But first thing you better do is you better slow down the running game. And Wisconsin, I guess you could say they slowed us down, but off and on they slowed us down.
Yeah, 200 yards.
We still had, my gosh, our backup running back had 25 carries for 174 yards. Yeah, one play was 82, but that still leaves 92 on those other 24 carries. That's still almost a 4-yard average on all those other carries.
I thought Wisconsin did dare Iowa to pass, but they were daring Iowa to pass while not stopping the run.
I'm talking about something even more extreme than that. I'm talking about run stunts maybe to try to negate a couple of their key running plays even. They could have been even more obvious in daring us to pass by loading the box even to a greater extent. So all I'm saying is we better be prepared for that. And in that regard, if we are going to throw a lot, I'd like to think it's almost all going to be against what we call single coverage. No double coverage of any type.
Okay.
A corner clearly covering a wide receiver. It doesn't have to be man necessarily. It could be zone. Just with the safeties playing low toward the box. But clearly one-on-one coverage outside. That'll make for an easier way to read for Deacon. It'll be more obvious. And then, of course, if you're looking at one-on-one coverage, then the thing that's so critical is you just got to find the best matchup and go for that. 1 week it might be one particular receiver, and another week it might be some other one. It just depends on the 2 corners that are out there one-on-one.
So with that extra week to prepare, do you think Minnesota defense, what you're talking about, you think they'll put some wrinkles in that maybe dares Iowa to throw even more? That's the kind of stuff you can do with an extra week?
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about their defense to even comment. Really, I do know they have an experienced defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So the really good ones do think out of the box, and the prime example of that would be Phil Parker. Phil Parker's doing some things we haven't really done that much of in the past, but they're well thought out, and they're there's been a lot of thought that's gone into it. We weren't really creating as much pressure as we wanted to or needed to. And now you see the linebackers more involved in pressure. We're not just relying on four-man pressure. And a lot of that stuff is showing up on critical downs, too, if you go back and look.
Mm-hmm.
Or for that matter, on the last possession of the game. We just got to go back 1 week to say what happened when the game was on the line just 1 week ago. We didn't sit back and play zone against Purdue. We ended up pressuring and playing some man. And it worked. We hit them in the head and got them off schedule and put an end to the drive. The same thing, almost the same situation against Iowa State. They're on the field for one last opportunity to win the game. It's a one-score game. What happened? It was 4 and out. They didn't make a first down. Neither did Purdue. Both those drives involved some pressure. I can't recall for sure that we brought extra rushers against Iowa State, but I know we did against Purdue, and we did some of that against Wisconsin too. A lot of pressure involving linebackers. Here's another thing we did early in the game. It just shows that our defensive staff is really giving a lot of thought to the way they call a game. One of the early 3rd and longs with Mordecai on the field,
mm-hmm.
they ran a Q draw. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
The Q draw went for 2 yards.
Yep.
It went for 2 yards, though, because the guy spying on that play was Schulte. Schulte, who rolled all the way down after the snap into a linebacker position,
mm-hmm.
and he's just sitting there eyeballing Mordecai. When Mordecai pulls the ball down and run with it, Schulte's right there, ends up bobbing him out of bounds for a gain too.
And, yeah, Mordecai was good. I remember in the old days, though, they would do that against Antoine Randall-El, and it still wouldn't work.
Matter.
It didn't matter because it just came down to a freakish athlete making a play. But, no, you're right, though. I mean, Iowa had them well scouted, and it's before we wrap up, I can't believe the hour's up already. I looked up.
Unbelievable.
And let's just to kind of capsulize the Big Ten right now, Don, is it still Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State? Then you got I'm going to do my power rankings today. Iowa's clearly number 4 right now. How big do you think the gap is between the big 3 and then Iowa and the rest right now, Don?
Well, Penn State would tell you there's a pretty big gap between the big 3.
Yes.
All right, I guess I walked myself into that.
Yeah, but that was one game. They saw us at our worst, and they played an outstanding game, and that was a whiteout game, which I guess made a little bit of difference to the Penn State players. But 3 exceptional teams in the East, no doubt about that. One of those matchups happens this next week.
Yeah, they're going to start beating on each other now.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Maryland thought they were maybe in position to make a run at the Big 3, but they got a reminder now that maybe not. Maybe they're not quite at that level. But those top 3 look awfully good. I think it's the best Ohio State defense in the past 10 years to make up for a little bit of an inexperienced offense on the part of Ohio State. Michigan looks really, really solid on both sides of the ball.
Yes, they do.
And so does Penn State. I'll give them credit for that. This is still a year where Penn State fans can think that they're better than either one of the other 2. And we'll see if it all plays out that way. It might. But it's going to take a really great effort on the part of any of them to beat the other 2, whoever it might be.
I got to ask you before we wrap up. Did you happen to? I don't know if you went to the crossover at Kinnick. If not, did you happen to watch any of it? And did you ever think there'd be 55,000 people in Kinnick watching a women's basketball game?
We were right there with all 55,644 others.
What'd you think?
I guess. It was fun to watch. It was, you felt like you needed to be there. I couldn't help but notice at the end of the game, hardly anyone had left. It wasn't like a football game. I realize a football game takes 3 hours plus versus 2 hours plus. But I just thought it was neat that nobody left their seats early, hardly. If you go back and look at the crowd, And it wasn't because the game was in doubt. It was simply because they didn't want. I told my wife, I said, "Dear, I'm sorry, we have to leave now. The game's over, you know." And we stuck around for a little bit and still heard Lisa's comments to the crowd. That was fun. But frankly, even if we wanted to leave with a minute left in the clock, we wouldn't be able to do it because we wouldn't be able to get up and out of the stadium because everybody was waiting.
Did you ever think you'd see Caitlin Clark throw an air ball up on a free throw?
I missed that one. Well, did the wind blow right when she did it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I don't know where. I mean, it looks to me like our percentages were off on perimeter shooting. I'm talking about on both teams.
Yeah.
Although it seemed like they shot better from three maybe than we did.
They took a ton.
Yeah, 23. I was impressed with her early on. I thought that girl can shoot them even in the wind.
She was good.
Caitlin wasn't as aggressive from three. I don't think she wanted to mess with the wind. That's the shooter's mentality, and because someone said she came out earlier in the game, an hour and a half before the game, and they said right away she's like, a little windy out here. I mean, with the shooter's mentality. But still, I mean, 34, whatever, another triple-double. I'm glad that you were there. I mean, Susan Harmon said it was, it was
beautiful
incredible.
day too.
Yeah, it could have been nice to be 10 degrees warmer. That if you're going to nitpick, because I did look at some of the girls. You could tell some of the girls, Gabby Marshall, when they were getting ready to introduce her, it looked like she was on the bench. It looked like she said something like, "I'm free." It was, you could tell it was cold, and I mean, it was 51 degrees at tip-off.
Yeah, we might have gotten a better day, but the weather gods weren't kind as they.
But that's about
been.
the only complaint. I mean, well, Caitlin would say it was maybe a little windy, but it's October.
Yeah, it was a little breezy. I thought Caitlin did a great job of just letting the game come to her.
Yep, and getting everybody involved.
Yeah, she, my gosh, a triple double, right?
Yes. It's routine for her.
Rebounds and assists. She had some great assists, of course. She does a good job of making her teammates look good because she's always looking for the open pass that sets up an easy score.
Mm-hmm.
And to the credit of our other girls, they ran the floor well, and of course they're smart enough to know they better be looking for a pass over the top of the defense because she's gonna throw it. She had some that were a little bit too bold, that we weren't able to convert, but
that's her game.
But fun to watch. And here's what I thought was so neat about it: how many young ladies, young girls were there for the first ever event related to women's basketball. And truth of it is, if there were 1,000 young schoolgirls there, age 4, 5, 6, and 7, or whatever. How many of those girls are going to decide to end up pursuing college basketball as a result of watching that game on Sunday? I think it'll be that kind of inspirational moment for them. They'll say, "Gosh, I want to do some of that. That looks like a lot of fun." And that was neat to be able to see that. I'm happy for women's basketball that it's been embraced so much by the Iowa fans. Lisa and I also do have season tickets for women's basketball. And
You're not alone.
I'll make all the games, but you can bet if it's going to be a good game, I'll find a way to be there. I don't care what the weather is.
And they raised $250,000 for the Children's Hospital. No, incredible. Just a great all-around event. Great job by Iowa to pull it off. Don, as usual, great stuff. I'm using the word great a lot here on this exit, but we enjoyed it again. I think we're going to be talking after a win next week, and I'm overly confident, but I'm not playing in the game, so hopefully we'll be talking about a win again next week, Don, and we'll be talking about a 7-1 Iowa football team. Think about that.
Well, what makes this fun for me, it gave me a chance to revisit 1981.
There you go.
Because this team reminds me so much of that 81 team. Let's hope that team also finds a way to play. This team, rather, I should say, also finds a way to play at Indy. And wouldn't it be something if that team also could end up in the Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Let's not worry about all that. Let's just worry about beating the Gophers.
Yep. All right, Don. Thanks.
Good,
great
Coach.
stuff as usual. Enjoy the week.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we said that we compared last year's team to the 81 team, but then it had a tougher schedule last year. Michigan, But, yeah, no, the comparison is fair. It was funny, though, back to the crossfire, I talked to a buddy of mine, and I said to him, it would look great. I go, if it was just a little bit warmer, if it would, oh, God, that's fine. I'm like, okay, that's easy. He said that in the crowd, wearing a winter coat, hat, and whatever. That's my only, I just wished it would have been about 10 degrees warmer. Because, 51 degrees outside is kind of cold. But I thought it was, those girls, they're fine. And then he admitted that he had a hat. He even brought gloves, just in case.
It was great.
But, no, I thought Iowa did a great job of pulling it off, getting everything set up. And it just worked out great.
Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised by the game Saturday.
My God, yes.
Like I said, I didn't think, I had Wisconsin way overrated. Don thinks the loss of Mordecai was a bigger impact. I just wasn't that impressed with him before he went out. Was not that impressed with Wisconsin. And Iowa is what Iowa is. They're the best of the worst.
Wisconsin was a little softer than I expected them to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because Iowa ran for 200 yards, and this is not a great running Iowa team.
So the most miserable comment before I got off social media. Oh, great. Now they're bowl eligible. Jesus.
Well, I'm getting a lot of, I wrote something in defense of Kirk the other day, and it brought out the haters because I'm saying, you can criticize. There's so much to criticize about. But his effort and he's not coasting. He's not just going through the motions to collect a paycheck. That's ridiculous.
Well, I hate
that narrative seems to be coming out more and more because, you can only criticize the stuff with Brian so much. Yes, they've got issues on offense. They still, and yes, the offense is probably going to keep them from being elite. They're not anywhere near the Big Three right now.
No.
And if they play Michigan in the Big Ten championship, do I think it'll be 42-3? Probably not, but would I give them much of a chance of winning? No, because I do think Michigan will score. As good as Iowa's defense is, Michigan will score. I think Michigan right now might be the best of the three. I was thinking Penn State, but I don't know. The way Michigan's playing right now, they start slow at times, but, man, when they get going, they're strong in all facets of the game. And for a lot of the critics, they want Iowa to be elite right now. Since it's year 25, the coach has his son as a coordinator. They want results, and we'll just have to wait and see. But if they end up going 11-3 this year and they lose the Big Ten championship and lose in a big bowl game, I'm still calling that a successful year. Others will call that a failure. And
let them.
And that's where we are.
Yeah.
That's where we are, though, with a lot of fans.
Well, we take a quick break, and we'll be back with more.
Breaking it down.
1-800-800-ROSE.
1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist is the only number you need to know to send flowers anywhere in the country or Canada from anywhere in the country.
1-800-800-ROSE.
It's so easy. Just remember one number. 1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist.
1-800-800-ROSE.
Remember.
For a gift that your loved one will treasure for a lifetime, find it at our family-owned jewelry store in Iowa City, Harty and Stocker Jewelers.
We can show you diamond engagement rings, colored stones, fashion jewelry, and watches.
Our jewelers are on site so we can design jewelry for that special person in your life.
We are Harty and Stocker, serving Iowa City and the surrounding area for 3 generations.
Harty and Stocker Jewelers, downtown Iowa City, and HartyandStockerJewelers.com. Ask for Willa, Terry, Tim, or Kate. One of us is always there.
Over the years, car keys have gotten extremely complex. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can generate the most technically advanced automotive keys on the market today. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars can produce most conventional transponder, sidewinder, and remote-headed keys. If you've lost the keys to your car or simply need a duplicate, call 330-9185. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for Cars has the technology to keep you on the road. Call 330-9185 and schedule an appointment today.
Are you tired of living in a home that doesn't quite meet your needs? Then it's time to call the experts at Streets Maintenance. Their team of skilled professionals specializes in renovations and remodeling, transforming your home into the space you've always dreamed of. From kitchen and bath remodels to complete home renovations, no job is too big or too small. Streets Maintenance will work with you every step of the way to ensure your vision becomes a reality. So don't wait any longer. Call Streets Maintenance to schedule your consultation at 400-4483. Let's start building your dream home today.
Once upon a time in the land of the Hawkeyes, a business grew. A business that would become synonymous with real estate. Hi, I'm Steve Anderson of Hawkeye Title and Settlement. When you're buying or selling your home, you'll need title and settlement services. Consider the Hawkeye Title and Settlement team. Give us a call at 351-8600. Hawkeye Title and Settlement, the team you love, the people you trust.
Don't let just anyone take care of your smile. At Diamond Dental, you can expect compassion, expertise, and a personalized care plan to protect your teeth for life. With more than 30 years of combined experience, Dr. Forbes and his staff are prepared to tackle even your toughest dental problems, leaving your smile healthy and sparkling. Diamond Dental offers a full range of general and cosmetic dentistry, as well as dental treatment options for snoring and sleep apnea. It's never too early to start thinking about what's best for your smile. Schedule an appointment today by calling 319-390-3703 or visiting the office at 5815 Consul Street Northeast, Suite D1 in Cedar Rapids. You can also visit DiamondDentalPC.com for more information. Dr. Forbes is a proud sponsor of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and the Inner Circle. Let the Diamond Dental team provide superior care for your entire family.
The Sanctuary Pub in downtown Iowa City has been a fixture since 1972 and still features a classic menu such as the classic shepherd's pie, handcrafted pizzas, and craft beers and cocktails. The Sanctuary Pub is known for its warm and cozy atmosphere. That's the perfect place to spend time with family and friends while enjoying live music. Support great local food with socially distanced dine-in, carry-out, and delivery through Chomp Delivery. The Sanctuary Pub is located at 405 South Gilbert Street. Full menu options are online at sanctuarypub.com. Come experience the Sanctuary Pub. You won't ever want to leave.
Car won't go into gear? Call Premier. Premier Automotive in North Liberty offers full-service mechanical auto repair, in addition to being Eastern Iowa's most trusted name in auto body repair. Use Premier for all your auto repair needs: brakes, oil changes, air conditioning, diagnostics, transmissions, or preventative maintenance. Whether you hit a deer or your car won't go into gear, see Premier Automotive in North Liberty. When you go to a family restaurant, you want three things. One, a wide selection of breakfast, lunch, and dinner items. Two, you want those selections to be affordable and delicious. And three, you want to be treated like family. You get all three at the Midtown Family Restaurant. Breakfast items available anytime the doors are open. Legendary tenderloins, onion rings, and hot roast beef sandwiches. And special ribeye and shrimp nights. Daily specials at each location. And no matter if you're coming in solo or with a group of 20, you get the same special family treatment. The Midtown Family Restaurants at Court and Scott Streets and at the Walmart Plaza on Highway 1 West. Follow them on Facebook or at MidtownFamily.com. The family's waiting for you. GT Carr, owner of Supple's Building and Remodeling, has been offering unmatched service and quality for over 25 years. The trained professionals at Supple's Building and Remodeling will install and guarantee the products used in any job, no matter how big or small. They also stand behind their work and offer no-nonsense, exceptional customer service from design to completion and beyond. Whether it's a simple window replacement or a major house addition, you'll have the confidence that Supple's Building and Remodeling is committed to quality. Visit supples.net or call them today at 319-337-2246.
If you're looking for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, you should know Deary Ford is here for you. To give you the best selection and pricing on new Fords, Deary Ford is here for you. To work with long-term experienced sales and service reps, Deary Ford is here for you. To give you the highest trade values, Deary Ford is here for you. To provide pickup and delivery and mobile service for our customers, Deary Ford is here for you. Hurry in or shop online at DearyFord.com.
Double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble.
Yeah. Bubbling over with cash. It's Wild Rose Casino's Cauldron of Cash.
Saturday, October 28th, you could win your share of $12,500 cash, including the grand prize of $7,500 at the 10 p.m. draw.
Earn entries now with Club Wildcard, only at Wild Rose Casino and Hotel Clinton. You'd rather be here.
Must be 21 or older. If you or someone you know needs gambling treatment, call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Football fans, this is Bill Leixenring of the Oxyoke Inn. We are on your way to or from the game. We're ready to serve you with the same quality food and customer service you've come to trust for over 80 years. The Oxyoke Inn is serving our famous Sunday brunch buffet with lunch, dinner, banquets, and carry-out daily. From our Oxyoke family to yours, we can't wait to see you again soon in the heart of Amana.
The Oxyoke Inn.
From the Harty and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Harty and Stalker Jewelers, making memories, making moments.
Mostly sunny today. We'll get to around 56 for a high this afternoon. The wind out of the northwest at 5 to 15. Tonight down to 37. Tomorrow partly cloudy, high of 61 on Wednesday. Partly cloudy and breezy, high of 68. Some showers Thursday, 62 the weekend. Mostly dry with highs in the upper 50s to low 60s Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Right now, it's 48.
KCJJ weather. Brought to you by Plum Supply.
Plum Supply kitchens and baths. Your home never looks so beautiful.
You can call us right now and claim your auction certificates from Friday's auction. You can also go to our app or our website and check out the remaining. We got a lot of good food, a lot of nice food, restaurants and services, and we've got, Tom, we've got the one pair of season tickets to the men's basketball.
Yes, one remaining. Oh.
One remaining, about a $750 value. We'll let go for $400. So call us at 319-354-1242 to claim your certificates. You can also come on out here and peruse what we got left over and claim your certificates here as well until 4:30.
Taylor Swift's Eras movie grossed $96 million in its first weekend.
Yeah.
What movie does she have?
It's her concerts that she's been doing. Yeah, 96
So
million.
in 3 days, it's become the highest grossing music movie ever.
Ever.
In 3 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's not even streaming.
No.
Hello.
Hello. Did you notice that after the game, the basketball game was over with yesterday, the sun came full blast out?
It sure did. It did.
I thought that would have been nice if it had been there for the whole game, but then maybe it would have gotten in their eyes. Who knows?
I loved watching the girls coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
To Back in Black. You know, you could tell they were just thrilled.
Oh, they were thrilled to death.
Yes. Yes.
Well, the TV broadcast had them coming out. They had them walking through the tunnel. You got a great view from home from that. That's one thing. Did they have it on the? Did they have it on the
Yes.
jumbotron? Okay, good.
Yeah, they had on that.
That's the neat thing about it is seeing them
jumbotron
coming down the hallway. And but I thought the TV broadcast by the Big Ten Network was good too. I
haven't rewatched
I
yet.
just thought the whole thing.
Yeah, it was really good.
Well, and then Van Pelt came on and said the one best thing that happened today, and he had it on as his one best thing.
And I know well, I'll promote our site. Susan had a really good story about it. She kind of just captured the whole event. I mean, she didn't really write a game story. Nobody wants to read a game story about an exhibition, but she wrote about 40 years ago, women wasn't even, a lot of sports weren't even varsity sports in college. And this shows just how far the game and has evolved. And I'm not taking away from anyone else, but this was Caitlin Clark.
Oh, sure.
I mean, this was the power and influence of Caitlin Clark. And that's not minimizing everybody else around her because she needs teammates, but this was her.
She coaches.
She made this
anything.
possible. Her legend.
Where I sat I had good seats, but I had two seats on both sides of me, nobody in them.
Yeah.
So that made I could spread all over the place.
Sounds like me up at the press box in Wisconsin. There were empty seats everywhere. I mean,
Where I felt like I was being squeezed to death.
You should come
to
over
my
and sat
left.
by me. It had plenty of room.
No, I meant at Wisconsin.
but it was a late arriving crowd because 10 minutes before that game, that stadium was not full.
They need to reseat that stadium because there's not near enough room for people.
Well, there were
It's
some
too
empty
tight.
seats too.
There were.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the north end zone or whatever. I mean, there was a lot of empty seats there, but yeah, it was funny looking at TV and seeing all the press row people, Susan, all of them down there watching a basketball game wearing like winter coats. I thought that was kind of. I got a kick out of that.
My sister lives in Minnesota, but her next door neighbor is from Wisconsin. So she invited her over, and she said, "No, I don't want to come. I don't want to be embarrassed." Well, at halftime, she told me, she said, "I'm going to go over there. It looks like we're playing better than I thought." So she went over there, and then she called me afterwards. She said she threw me out and called me a jerk at the end. I said, "Well, what did you have to do with it?" Well, I was being obnoxious.
Well, we were surrounded by almost 100% Wisconsin fans, so Ann and I could not have possibly been better behaved than we were.
Well, probably. I remember once we went up there, and my husband parked outdoors, and he didn't go in. He just stayed in the parking lot. I went up there, and I asked the guy, "What do you do if you want to go out at halftime?" He said, "Oh, I'll just stamp your hand." So he stamped my hand. I thought, I haven't even paid to go in yet. So I just went right on in, sat in the students box. And that, of course, that was when the students only came for the fifth quarter.
It's just so weird the way they do that. They have the students come in single file, and it takes them a full quarter and a little more to get their section filled. I've never understood it. I don't know why.
Yeah. That's kind of weird.
It's
but anyway,
real weird.
You guys have a good day.
You too, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't get it.
It works for them, I guess.
I guess.
I was peeing during the jump around. That was kind of annoying.
Were you jumping around?
No, but it was rocking and what have you. But they didn't have a lot to cheer. Like I said, that game just did not. I mean, it was great from an Iowa perspective, defense, whatever. But I can't imagine the ratings real high for people that didn't have an attachment to either program.
Well, you wouldn't think so.
There was not a lot of entertainment value. But like we said during the break, Kirk's not paid to entertain. He's paid to win games, and they are now 14-6. Since the start of last, and I looked it up because I still get a lot of, we haven't been the same since Doyle got unfairly let go. They're 30-12 since Chris Doyle left. That's a pretty good record.
That is pretty good.
You know, they're 29-3. I mentioned they're 29-3 against Iowa State, Nebraska, Minnesota, and I think. I looked up a bunch of different stuff I wrote a column yesterday just about the oddity that is Iowa football right now. I'll pull it up, but I listed off all these offensive stats that are just unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
And yet, then I counted it with stats that are pretty impressive. Now, the critics going to say, yeah, that's all fine and done. Yeah, we're the best of the worst. We're not elite. We're nowhere close to being elite. His son is keeping us from being – I get that. They're going to be – and they, right now, it's hard to dispute that. But if you're going to just look at Iowa football that way and just be miserable about it, then
don't watch.
Find something else to do because that life's too short. Yeah, I mean, their games are boring. Their games are boring, but still they're finding ways to win.
Yeah, they win.
And that's Kirk's job. I mean, and
people just want to change.
The offense has issues.
Doesn't,
the offense has serious issues.
Yeah,
without
it does.
question.
And it is keeping them from, I mean, the gap between Iowa and the Big Three, even Don sort of, I think, politically correctly said it's wide.
Yes.
It's wide.
Well, 31-0 tells you something.
But there isn't going to be change if they keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, let's say they go 11-1 and then just get destroyed in the Big Ten championship and in a bowl game and the offense completely craps its pants. There could be change. I'm not totally convinced, Brian. Last year I was still convinced he's going to be back. This year I'm not. But I'm also not convinced he's going to be gone either because I think it's a developing story. I think it's a fluid situation, and I don't think there is a resolution to something like that right now. Things still have to develop.
Well, we rushed for over 200 yards in a very tough place to play, and that shows progress offensively. Now, I know we only passed for, 37 yards?
37, yeah.
But that's nothing. That's not unprecedented there for Iowa quarterbacks to not pass for a lot of yards.
No, but a critic will say, well, they're not going to run for 200 yards against Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan. Then what are they going to do to counter? What are they going to do for plan B? And that's out there, and they're out there because, like I say, I can write something negative about Kirk, and then I'm a Ferentz hater. I write something, I'm a Ferentz. Ferentz got you in his back pocket. You're just a Ferentz apologist. You can't win right now. I mean, whereas I just try to write how I feel about that subject that certain day, and I go back and forth because that's how I feel. I mean, there's so much tribalism now. It seems like even in sports, you're either all or nothing, and that's not how it works.
No,
you can your opinions can jump back and forth. I mean, Kirk's never going to fire anyone during the regular season, and he's not going to fire Brian, nor should he right now with the way they're playing. And to fire somebody, what would that accomplish? It would accomplish nothing. No. All it would do is please the people that want flesh and blood and guts and just tear it up and just.
And that's not Kirk Ferentz.
That's not Kirk Ferentz. And the fact that it's his son will make it even more not Kirk Ferentz.
Sure.
I mean, he is. I mean, but yes, he has hooked his saddle and his legacy to his son. And right now, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, but even the critics aren't as vocal now because it's hard to make fun of a team that's 6-1 and leading the West. I mean, you can make fun of them all you want, but they're still 6-1, and so I don't know. It's just a really it's an odd situation right now that a team can be this successful with such a bad offense in so many ways. I mean, this running game was it's been good for 2 games this year.
Yeah.
And one was against, so I'm not ready to anoint the running. Oh, it's back. Now, if they go out and they get 175, 200 against Minnesota, and whatever, then you start saying, okay, this team is
starting to play a little
but I'm
bit.
not convinced it will.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think this team may have a 26 carries for 83 yards left in them. But, man, they don't play against very many good defenses the rest of this year. Minnesota's defense this year isn't that good.
No, it isn't.
And, I mean, Rutgers, I mean, guys, look at their schedule. I mean, Illinois, I mean, think about, how easy, at least on paper, this schedule is. Northwestern at Wrigley Field. This is a very favorable situation. I see 11-1, barring injuries and upsets. I see 11-1 now. And losing any of these last 5, it would be considered a minor upset.
Yeah,
I mean, if they lose to Minnesota at home or Rutgers at home, that's an upset. Now, it's an upset that not a lot of people are going to care about, but it's still an upset. And now Rutgers came back and beat Michigan State. They were down 24-6 at halftime. I think came back and won 27-24. Rutgers, I believe, is 5-2. I mean, they're at least showing some life.
They have a decent team.
They're decent, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Iowa here. But like I said, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, they aren't on the rest of the schedule.
No.
So, and that's not Iowa's fault. You play who's on your schedule.
Well, they may pop up on our schedule.
Well, yeah, one of them is going to pop up in the Big Ten. If Iowa gets to the Big Ten, they're going to play one of those 3 teams.
Yep.
And I'm not overly confident that Iowa will win. I'm not really confident at all that Iowa would win. And I'm starting to think now is what is the game? Is Michigan at Penn State this weekend?
Ohio State. Penn State at Ohio State.
Penn State at Ohio State.
Believe.
Michigan's at Ohio State in 2 weeks.
Let me make sure I got that right.
I know Michigan does play at Penn State, I believe. That's the one.
Penn State at Ohio State on the 21st.
Okay. And then when does Michigan at Penn State?
Michigan at Penn State on November 11th.
Okay, so that's still 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 3 are going to settle themselves here in this final month. It's going to be interesting to see who's on top.
Be interested if they all go, beat one of them and lose one
and
of them.
They all go 11-1?
Uh-huh.
Well, then the tiebreaker will play. I'm not as confident about Penn State winning at Ohio State now as I was earlier. But if it was Ohio State playing at Penn State, I'd give Penn State the edge.
I would too.
Penn State's offense, the passing attack is kind of leveled off a little bit, and the running game hasn't been quite as explosive as I thought it was going to be. The defense has been really good. Ohio State seems to be coming together a little bit, but
they're not quite Ohio State on offense.
And I don't know why. Maybe it's all just the quarterback because they've got great running backs, the best receiver in college football, 8 stars on the offensive line, if there are such things as 8 stars. I mean, weird call.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Hey, I was sitting by a guy at the game, and he told me years ago a couple of students got trampled, and so now they got to file them in, single file, holding hands, no running, kind of like at the pool, right?
Oh, well, that makes some sense, actually.
They make them hold hands?
No, I just said that.
Oh, okay.
That's what it looks like, though, when they're filing it one at a time,
The germaphobe in me would
well,
that at all.
That makes sense, I guess, even though nobody else does
Hunter
that.
and I hold hands when we go into the studio.
Yeah, but you guys both have germs all over your hands.
This was the same at about the second series. Told our Torrey Taylor's our best player, get him there, and him and his wife kind of give me this guy like, oh great, we got a drunk belligerent for sitting beside us. But by the third quarter, to me goes, you're right. Yeah. So.
I mean, he is their MVP.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he won co-special team player of the week again this.
I think it's his 3rd time.
This week, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's He's really pretty good. So.
Yes, he
sure is.
All right.
Thanks for the
guys.
call. Good guy, too. Really fun guy. Great personality. And you got to remember, he is 26 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 26 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that helps him handle the pressure. I don't think no moment's too big for him. But you heard Don say he's better at pinning opponents than Reggie Roby was. If you're better at anything in punting than Reggie Roby, you are incredible. And, yeah, he was the MVP of that game. I mean, he saved
without question.
that offense. Because, Iowa, as great as we want to say they're running it, they had 8 3-and-outs.
Yeah.
And
well, and at one point in the second half, we had six straight 3-and-outs, gained 3 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal at times, but Wisconsin just wasn't capable of doing anything on offense to threaten to score. It just never felt like – one time it felt like they might score a touchdown.
Hello.
Do you think if Iowa goes 11-1, they'll be the first team possibly not ranked in the top 20?
Well, we're already
They're
ranked
23rd in one poll. Yeah, if they're 11-1, they'll be ranked almost in the top 10. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're ranked 23rd
Yeah, I don't pay
this week.
the rankings to me mean nothing. I've never paid. I mean, it's sports writers ranking these teams, and I mean, like when the rankings came out, I thought, should I write a little story? But I'm sure some news outlets, I think Hawks sent. I'm not going to write stories about them being ranked 20. Who cares? I don't just that stuff. But no, if they're 11-1, did he say top 20?
Yeah.
Oh God! I mean, if they win this week, they might be in the top 20.
We probably
depending
won't be.
on. But really, who cares? I'm not a big poll person.
I think he was negative.
It's something.
Negativity.
Yeah.
Well, this offense brings out negativity.
Yeah, I bounced one guy from Minnesota when we posted the crossover at Kinnick.
Yeah.
The attendance, and he goes, well, that's easy to do when you don't have a pro team. And I said, what the hell does that have to do?
Well, he's saying that some pro people would be at the pro event on a Sunday, probably. Whatever.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever. I bounced him.
Good. There you go. Just censorship.
Yeah.
Censor his ass.
You're like Putin.
Not invading kicks. I see empty buildings.
There's nothing you need there. If there was, you would be invading them. You'd have Lang and Hunter digging up from underneath. But they have nothing there you want, do they?
I had a very harrowing weekend.
Are we going to hear about it?
Well, my cable box died.
Oh.
Well, I slept on my glasses, so now the one rim is way down, and it's a lot harder to get it back to where you want it than to get it where you don't want it.
I've done that.
I mean, I need new glasses anyway, but I don't have time to go out to Lens Crafters this week, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to put some weight on it to see if it'll kind of bend back, because when I put it on, my world becomes a little dizzy.
wonky.
No, these are subscription.
Cut it in half and then have
but
a
I can't wear. I mean, these are subscription, but I can't wear sunglasses everywhere.
I think you'd look good wearing a monocle.
Yeah, wear a monocle.
Yeah.
Cut it in half.
There you go.
Hello.
Hey, that was a good win on Saturday, but I think the Hawks are going to have to win out because Wisconsin's got a real easy schedule, too.
Well, they do have to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're right. Their schedule is quite easy, but they do have to play Ohio State still.
Well, that will help.
Yes.
Yes. And they could lose. I mean, I from what I saw Saturday, that team could lose to a lot of.
That team could lose this coming Saturday.
They could lose at Illinois this Saturday. Don't they at Illinois this Saturday?
Yes. But I will also say that this Iowa team could easily lose one of these next 5 games.
It could. I think this week is one of their more winnable games left on the schedule. The one at Nebraska at the end of the year is a concern for me.
Yeah.
If they're healthy,
that. They beat us last year.
Yes, and they weren't very good last year. They're starting to come together a little bit. And even the games prior to last year were down to field goals.
No,
With the Nebraska game, to me, I mean, I'm saying that there's an easy path to 11-1, but if pressed on it, I'd probably still maybe stick to 10-2. Iowa, if it's typical Iowa football, they're going to lose to one of these last 5 teams, even though they're probably going to be favored. But man, it's an easy process of picturing scenarios in which they win.
Yeah.
I mean, a game at Rutgers would concern me.
Oh, for sure.
But they're here.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a long road trip. It would. I mean, Rutgers. I know the environment out there isn't great, but they're starting to fill up a little more. If they're 5-2, their fans are
more
starting to catch on.
competitive.
But the one at Nebraska, That's going to be a difficult game, assuming they're not just banged up with injuries. I mean, because Nebraska doesn't have a lot of depth, especially at key positions on offense.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But no, I mean, Iowa is the best, appears to be the best in a really mediocre division.
Bad division?
I mean, you might say bad. I mean, yeah, I guess you could go that far. I mean, if Iowa was in the East, they'd be at the best the fourth team.
Yeah.
I was thinking fifth, but no, I think Iowa maybe has more consistency than Maryland. Maryland is so up and down. They had no business losing at home. Wasn't it at Maryland? Or was it at Illinois?
Let's see. At Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, that's a horrible loss.
Yeah, you got to win that game.
That's a horrible. And hey, hats off to Brett for rallying the troops because they were reeling, man. They were 2-4. They were really, really. That's a great win for the team and for Brett Bielema. So nice job, Brett.
So as of now, and this is just like the ratings, the rankings, but as of right now, Iowa would either go probably to the Citrus Bowl or the Las Vegas Bowl.
I'd rather do the Las Vegas Bowl just because it's something different. And my cousin lives in Las Vegas. Maybe she'd let me freeload and stay with her.
Except it's the 23rd of December, and I don't want to trash our Christmas.
But you will.
No.
Oh, you won't go? Wow,
No.
Suter taking a stand.
No.
Family first.
Yeah.
And God.
And God.
Family and God over Hawkeye football? Or is it?
Well, in this instance, it would be family wins.
God has nothing to do with it?
Well, God's not a sports fan.
Yeah, but he's
I've never bought that theory.
That God's not a sports fan?
Yeah.
You think God likes
Well,
Deion?
it's like...
You think God liked that game against Wisconsin, the Iowa-Wisconsin game?
I think where God enters into sports is you learn something from sports and you advance, or you don't and you devolve. And I think God, everything we do, God is taking us toward something.
What do you think God was thinking when they ran that reverse to Nico that lost 3 yards?
God is,
that I saw that. Did you see that coming? Hey, they're going to hand the ball off to Nico, and those 2 Wisconsin defenders are right there waiting for him.
I think God said, "Come on, Brian."
That was not one of Brian's high points in that. The receiver sweeps, man.
When I watched that play, I thought that if he had cut it up field quickly instead of trying to go all the way around, that he had a chance to make something good happen. But then I watched the replay last night. No,
there was a big linebacker waiting to take off his head because they saw it coming. I mean, those receiver sweeps are so predictable. You got us clowns.
Caden Weegan had one good one.
Yeah, he ran. That was in the first game of the year. He ran 3 of them. One of them gained 14 yards. Yeah, other than that, they're just not working.
No.
And they take so long to develop, and they use every inch of the horizontal part of the field, and I just wish they'd scrap that play. Or
do we just not have enough speed, or?
Well, I mean,
why are they so slow to develop?
Well, I don't think there's a ton of speed.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are asking why Caleb Brown's not running those plays. Well, he must not be as good in practice as the guys that are running them. That must be, because now there's people, why aren't we playing Caleb Brown? Well, the only thing I can say is he's not as good in practice as the other guys that are playing. But these people, some of them can't dismiss the fact that he was a 4-star transfer from Ohio State, and that a lot of people in the media said this could be a season-changing. A lot of people just hyped him up tremendously when he committed to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you did at that moment to get clicks and attention, and it was a huge deal. And then fans get all worked up, and then when he doesn't live up to that, people want to know why. What's going on? Why are we not playing the 4-star from Ohio State and the walk-on from Williamsburg is playing? Well, because the walk-on from Williamsburg must be doing better in practice. Well, that's all I can say. There's no conspiracy. Kirk doesn't play guys over other guys based on anything besides what they're doing. Now it's not just you got to live up to the standards of the program, but the guys that are performing the best on the field in practice are the ones playing. And there's all these other theories that have existed for years. Dating back to, they played McCann over Brad Banks. It was always that stuff is just hogwash.
Well, you look at McCann's stats. I'm drooling over McCann's stats now compared to what we've got now.
Well, yeah, you could say that about almost any quarterback. But there was people thought since Brad played so well in 2002, well, God, he would have done this in 2001. No, he wouldn't have. And Brad's even said that he wasn't ready yet. He needed another year in the system before he'd be ready to start to play at the level he did in 2002. But that's been one of the criticisms with Kirk is that he plays favorites and what have you. That's not happening at wide receiver. He's playing the guys who he thinks gives him the best chance to win. Am I surprised Caleb Brown's not playing? Yeah, I mean, he didn't. He dressed for say, but he didn't play. I mean, and he just must not be getting it done in practice.
I guess.
Because I get asked that question a lot. Why that 4-star from Ohio State playing? And people got to get beyond the rankings and what they read when he committed. Because, like I said, a lot of that stuff that was written when he committed was just people reporting the news, of course, but also building on it to get clicks and attention on, because that's the world we live in now.
Well, he had one more catch at Ohio State than he's had here.
Well, I think they've only targeted him twice, but he doesn't barely play.
No, I don't.
I mean, he's ran a reverse a couple of times and what have you, but like I said, if they can keep running for close to 200 yards, they're going to have a chance to win all these games.
Yes.
I'm not convinced that will be the case, but we'll see. Maybe they've turned a corner with the running game. Because, like I said, Wisconsin's defense, the 3-3-5 scheme, the linebackers just didn't seem nearly as active as in the past. I mean, there were times when Wisconsin knew every running. It's like they knew exactly where the Iowa running back was going to go, and they would have 3 defenders there waiting for him. They knew where the tight end was going to go, and they'd have 2 defenders blanketing him. I mean, there were times when the Iowa offensive line had a great surge, dug out big holes. I mean, LaShawn did a great job of hesitating and cutting back on that long touchdown run, but there was a hole there, too.
There sure
and
was.
He found it, and then, of course, he cut back and outraced. And it was weird. LaShawn's not the fastest running back in the world, but Wisconsin didn't have a D-back even with an angle that was fast enough to catch him.
No.
That was pretty telling to me. They just don't seem quite as athletic as they've been in the past.
And they missed a couple of tackles on that run.
I will say they got a good field goal kicker.
Yes, they did. Well, it's funny that you say that, though, because before that, the fans we were talking to say, if it comes down to field goal kicking, you guys are going to win.
Man, he was good. He was good Saturday. He was really good Saturday.
52-yarder?
Yeah, and Drew Stevens he is what he is. He's one of the best and what have you. But, no, it just never felt like Iowa was going to lose Saturday. I never felt like. Now, when the game started, I wasn't like, oh, they're going to win. But once the game started playing out, after about one quarter with more, I'm like, man, I think Iowa might win this game, even though I picked Wisconsin to win.
On that first drive, Wisconsin's first drive, they were able to really move down the field, and I think, oh, boy, is it going to be one of those? And then we tightened up and stopped them on the 4th down.
Well, it looked like when Mordecai realized he wasn't going to be able to do much on broken plays, which he didn't. That really hurt them because that's been a big part of their offense this year is him extending plays on his own, and Iowa just was not going to let him do that. They're really good. Now, of course, he's not Antoine Randall. I mean, Iowa was really good at doing that 20 years ago, but when you've got the D-back that's in perfect position to make a tackle, Saturday, these guys made it against Mordecai. Antoine Randall would make a hip move and would spin and boom, gone. Then there's the first down, but coaching can't do anything about that.
No.
They were in the right place, But yeah, it was. I will say the Iowa game day experience. Our walk, and I didn't mind it, but our walk, we were 1.2 miles from the parking ramp where we parked to the press box, and so between that, and I walked 3.5 miles that day, just covering the game, going down. Iowa's game day setup is so much better.
Yeah,
and the food. I mean, they had hot dogs with cold buns.
Hey.
And Iowa just does a much better job, the food and everything. I thought they would have brats with Wisconsin, but they just had hot dogs, and they weren't very good. But it was free. I guess I am complaining about free food. It just wasn't very good, though. I'm more complimenting Iowa for the game day experience they provide to the media, and we all know that's everyone's number one interest is making sure the media gets treated fairly and with respect, right?
Well, it's the media's number one.
Don't you wake up every day demanding respect?
No.
You don't?
I've given up.
You've given up? It was and we walked down, I can't remember the street we walked down. We didn't walk down State Street, but, I mean.
Regent?
I didn't even think it seemed that alive. I don't know. It just seemed kind of blasé when we walked into the stadium. I just didn't get a sense.
There wasn't the electricity there that there frequently has been in the past.
That was what was missing. It just didn't seem as hyped up as other times we've gone through there. It just seemed kind of like people kind of going through the motions. And my guess is, Luke Fickell's got himself. It's not going to be as easy as people think. And I think Barry Alvarez was so good that you wonder if Wisconsin's going to be one of these programs now that's going to be always searching for the next Barry Alvarez, kind of like Nebraska.
Well, if so, they're probably not going to find one.
Well, then the other thing you got to be careful, too, is you don't want to fire someone really early. Nebraska, I think, has fired some coaches maybe a little too early, like Frank Solich.
I don't think Frosty was too early.
Frosty wasn't too early. Bo Pelini was winning 9 games every year, but he was just a rude, vulgar, mean jerk. So they had to get rid of him. But Frank Solich was winning 9, 10 games.
No, he should not have been
fired. And that's why I'm Fickle's. My guess is Fickle will get at least 4 years. But let's say they go 7-6 this year, and like next year they go 5-7. It's going to be ugly up there. If they're booing as much as they were Saturday, I mean, they entered that game 4-1 and undefeated in Big Ten play, and they were booing. They were booing pretty.
Yes, they were
Passionately there in the second quarter, and they were booing when Mordecai was still in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, they're booing. It was. Were you surprised? Was anyone near you booing, or were you booing with them?
No.
You should have just climbed on with them. Boo! This offense sucks. Would that have been funny?
You know, I don't think the people in our section were booing, or not. There could have been a few behind us, but for the most part, it
was mostly the students.
No,
hell, the students weren't even there.
They weren't even there.
Yeah, they were still filing in one by one.
Well, that guy, that phone call, that makes sense.
It's got to be a compromise between getting trampled and filing in, holding hands one by one.
Yeah, I think there has to be a middle ground there that you can achieve. But I think they like it. It brings attention. That's kind of their tradition, along with the, what do they call it, the walker?
Jump around.
Jump around, walk around. The jump around. Then the Iowa team, the post-game press conference is right next to the locker room, which is not always the case. It's not the case. It is in Iowa, too, but for Wisconsin, you can just hear it. It was right. It's like we were there. They were playing the jump around song in the Iowa locker room, and I think that's great. You know, I mean,
and they did one at the crossover yesterday to play jump around.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
Did the fans jump? Did you guys?
You bet.
Did you guys rock that stadium?
We did. We sure did.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it was. I know Susan enjoyed it. It looked like the media all enjoyed it.
I'll read her article.
It was good. It was really good. And I thought Iowa, Josh Burke and all the event management, take a bow. I thought you guys did a great job.
Yeah,
I thought
they sure did.
That wasn't easy to pull that thing off. It didn't look like any players were slipping on the court.
No.
Didn't see any of that. And I think once they got going, and Caitlin was smart. You saw she wore a sweatshirt underneath her uniform. Like some of those girls just were out there with just their. I mean, that had to be a little chilly. But once they got, the problem is once you get going, but then when you stop for a timeout, then it's cold again. It's probably a little harder to get going again. I think they said it was 51 at tip-off.
Hello, tip-off in Kinnick.
Hey, I went to the game this weekend also, and you mentioned how the Wisconsin fans were booing so much.
Yeah.
The people that were sitting around us, I actually didn't hear them boo as much as I heard them yell and complain and tell me where you've heard this before on like 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and they'd throw a pass and they would go for 6.5 or 7 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they throw it to the sideline and it'd go right out of bounds. And I looked around and I was like, man, this feels exactly like like I feel when I'm at Kinnick. I feel like Iowa does that historically all the time.
I think if you were to examine it, most teams depend on yards after catch.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
They do, but I know what you're saying also.
And then I was wondering if you guys could maybe talk a little bit about, it seems like, and I think Kirk mentioned this, Iowa, it seems like we give up the first drive of the game. Most teams have a nice long drive, whether they score or not, that's, game to game. But then after that, it really tightens up. And so obviously that's because it's scripted. And can you talk about, like, why is that there is such a difference between those first 10 or 12 plays and then it's Iowa just makes a change that quickly and and buttons everything up.
I think it's our defense adjusting to what the other team's trying to do.
Yeah, but I also think it's just settling in too. I don't think they made any dramatic changes in the second series. They just settled in. I think sometimes the offense can maybe catch you by surprise in that an opening drive or what have you. But I think eventually they just settle in and they start just sticking to their assignments, trusting what they can do. And that's the only way I can explain it. And I do think sometimes offenses come out a little hyped up and what have you. But with Iowa, because I didn't notice any major, huge adjustments defensively. And remember, they didn't score on that. I mean,
no, they didn't.
They didn't score on that first drive. So but I do get why Kirk sometimes now is taking the ball because the defense has opening. But I just think that's something that's maybe a characteristic of this defense. It needs a little time to get warmed up. But I also think it's just a matter of settling. Okay, we got that out of our system. Let's go.
So I wonder if Fickle, if he had to do it again, would kick the field goal on that first drive instead of.
I'm sure he probably would.
Yeah,
especially knowing how hot his kicker was that day.
Yeah.
Sure. And then, if you remember earlier this year, Iowa actually drove down and scored on our first drive of the game. And I know on TV they put up some kind of fact about how this is the first time in so many drives that there was, a passing touchdown or touchdown on the opening drive. Do you feel like when Iowa gets the ball first, the first time Iowa gets the ball, the goal is really just to get 20 or 30 yards? And then put Taylor in there.
I think the goal is to score a touchdown. I think every time Iowa gets the ball, I think their goal is to score a touchdown. I mean, it may be hard to tell at times, but no, I don't think they go into that mindset at all. I hope not.
Sure. Well, yeah, sure, okay. All right, thank you for your comment.
Thank you for the call. No, I think I know it's hard to tell at times, but I think every time they get the ball, their mindset is to go out and score a touchdown. I mean, that's what they're there to do.
Well, you sure hope that's
the
mindset.
I mean, if it's not, then what the hell? Why are you out there?
Oh, I would think that's it. Hello?
Hey, got a quick question and an observation.
Okay.
Why don't colleges use the telestrators on the sidelines? The pads, looking at film and stuff and positions.
We know they don't. I
don't. I've never seen.
Yeah, I can't
college.
Speak on it.
I'm
not
will
real
say
knowledgeable on this.
I don't know that I've seen the Iowa done, but I've seen teams that had.
I don't necessarily think there's rules against it.
I don't know.
But I don't know. Don't quote me on anything. You've got that's.
I've seen players looking at iPads and
this
stuff.
feels like algebra. You're asking a question in which I don't have an answer.
Interesting. The second observation.
It's called stupidity.
Well, that's self-evident, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm acknowledging stupidity right here.
Sorry. The second observation, maybe I just don't ever see it, is when the offense goes to the bench and the quarterback sits down, I don't really see offensive coaches coming over and talking to the quarterback. And is that something I'm just not seeing? Or
yeah, it happens some.
That's something you're just.
Yeah, missing. I don't think it's anything unusual at Iowa. It happens some. It's not like every time the quarterback Brian's in his face conversing, but no, it happens some. And I think there's times where the quarterback walks by Brian, and Brian may say something in a short little passing that he needs to say, and he doesn't need to say anything more. But no, I don't think there's anything going on the sideline with Iowa that's really unusual.
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
okay. Fair questions. Appreciate it.
Oh no, these are all
good
fair questions. Yeah.
But yeah, those. I mean, as far as the iPads and stuff, I don't know. I mean, the NFL, God, they have computer. I mean, it's amazing all the stuff they have down
Big
there.
screens.
Like remember those Etch a Sketches?
Yeah.
Kids. Did you ever have one of those?
Yeah,
I did.
Loved it.
I wasn't good with.
I wasn't good with them, and I got frustrated and broke mine. Because I could never do it as good as my brother did, and I remember hitting it with a fist and breaking it. My dad's like, you little brat.
I know some people just drew, perfect.
Oh, I couldn't.
Perfect things, and mine looked like my dog was.
Yeah,
playing
mine
with
was terrible.
I
could not draw at all.
I was Picasso with.
Yeah, I'm sure. I could not draw at all. My brother could do. He could have been a great cartoonist. He was a great illustrator. I had trouble with stick people.
Oh, my stick men are still not good.
But it was funny. He could take like a sheet of paper and just write. And then if I would try to do that, I just get. It's amazing how people have certain gifts and others don't. I mean, I could.
We all have our gifts.
I could never draw. I was never able to draw anything, and he was always really good at it.
I can't draw, but I was good on the Etch-a-Sketch. Well, I can draw some. I got when I was in first grade. I won that Art Nagy. Was that his name? That you draw pokey, you draw.
Oh, you mean the art contests that were in
Yeah.
all the
comic books?
Comic books?
Yeah.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah,
I did
I
in
was going to
first
get a scholarship.
I don't remember anything I did in first grade. You know, I can honestly say I don't remember one thing I did in first grade.
I remember drawing those things and sending them in.
I mean, I remember
Mine
drawing
was
on
good.
an Etch-a-Sketch as a kid, but like I said, I don't know if it was in first grade. I mean, it's amazing that your mind works that way, that you're able to remember something.
I
you did.
can't remember a lot of stuff from my childhood.
I thought this is cool. Our Esquina, our corner of the sports world, amplifying Latino voices and stories. Subscribe to YouTube channel at the link below. They have named Iowa's Sebastian Castro was all over the place, securing an interception and helping the Hawkeyes get a safety against Wisconsin. Castro is our Esquinos Player of the Week for Week 7. He leads our weekly recap of Latinos in college
That's
football.
awesome.
That's cool,
That's
man.
cool.
That is really cool.
Reminded me of Bob Sanders Saturday.
Yeah,
Seriously,
he was really good.
He was terrific.
He was the best defensive player on the field Saturday.
Just
Cooper
some-
was good too. Don't get me wrong, but no, Jay
Huge
had
hits.
his 13 tackles, but no, Sebastian was the one that really stood out.
Yep.
On the field. I mean, and I thought the defensive line, other than a couple series, because there was a lot of times when Braylon Allen didn't have any room to run.
Then there was that little swing pass that Castro just blew up.
Yep.
The ball went flying about 15 yards.
I thought it was going to get intercepted.
It was, yeah, I did too.
So, yeah, no, he was very impressive, and he's the typical symbolic Iowa football player, fifth-year senior, waited his turn, not heavily recruited, and here he is. He and LaShawn went to, I think it's Oakland Richards High School. They both went to the same high school. So, yeah, proud day for that high school, and, yeah, because LaShawn was great. It was funny when he was asked about, I asked him, did you see that D-back coming angle? Coming at, what were you thinking? He's like, I don't remember. I blacked out. He said he blacked out during the run to the end zone, which I thought was kind of funny. But I saw that D-back coming, and I'm like, no, he's not going to catch him because that D-back chasing him wasn't that fast.
No, he wasn't.
He really wasn't.
And I saw him coming. I said, "Oh shoot, he's going to get him at about the 10-yard line."
And then
then I said, wait,
field goal.
He's losing
4 points. No, I was thinking, if he doesn't get into the end zone, they're probably not going to score.
Oh, for sure.
And it would be a loss of 4 points. But I picked them to lose 19-11, so I was only off by 4 points with their points. But like I said, I just overrated Wisconsin. I gave them more credit being at home. I thought Mordecai would be better. I just wasn't that impressed with Mordecai.
I thought
Don seemed to be more impressed with him than I was, and so maybe that's on me.
I thought Wisconsin was going to be a much better team than they
weren't
turned
very
out
good.
to be
No.
Saturday.
Well, I'm glad they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, like you said, if you like the path of least resistance, man, Iowa's traveling down that path this year. I mean, next year the schedule is going to be a lot more difficult. I mean, like I said, if you take all these games right now, they're favored in all the rest of these 5 games.
Okay, Wisconsin, outside of the Ohio State game, they play at Illinois.
With a backup quarterback.
At Indiana, Northwestern at home, Nebraska at home, at Minnesota.
Man, that's an easy schedule.
It is.
They could easily win four of those 5 games.
Hello.
Or is it? Yeah, they could.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
As Tom said, the people around us actually weren't booing, but it was a little like being back in Kinnick because every time they not quite make the third down conversion, the hands were thrown up in the air and throw the ball and run the ball, and a guy behind us was yelling "Fire Longo," and isn't he like their first year offensive coordinator?
Yeah, he's in his first year.
Yeah, so there was several times I heard "Fire Longo." So they were pretty. The people around us were very frustrated, and it was very reminiscent of being in our home.
It was, and then the people that were screaming for a flag on every single stop that Iowa made.
Guy in front of us, he jumped up, and of course he was 8 feet tall, so he blocked the entire field for me. He jumped up and he did the motion like throw the flag, and it's like that pass wasn't catchable. It wasn't really interference.
Yeah, I thought the
anyway,
officials
and
were
the guy
fine.
was like sailed 3 feet over his head. You can't throw a flag on that, dude.
No,
But
yeah.
of course, Tom and I were very quiet, very well behaved, and when the Hawks do something well, we'd politely applaud quietly.
Well, there you go.
And then look at each other with our eyes real wide. Did you see that?
I mean, Brian Ferentz is at least in his 7th year for the booing, This Longo's been there for half a season, and he's trying to revamp an offense.
Not even quite, because they had a bye week.
And he's trying to completely overhaul Barry Alvarez's offense.
Yeah, and that guy wanted him gone. He was the only one, and the people around us weren't booing, but it wasn't just the students. I mean, 'cause, it's when you hear what's going on across the stadium much better than you hear what's going on your side.
Sure, for sure.
And and it was people in the good seats making some noise.
Yeah.
It was.
And they're not a fun team to watch either.
No,
No.
it was. Tom turned to me at one point and he said, "This is one ugly, frustrating football game." Yeah. I think it was like that stretch through the third and the fourth quarter where it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and neither team really made much in the way.
The only good thing is the clock was moving.
Like 7 of those in a row.
The clock was moving too slowly.
It was moving slowly.
Wow.
Tons of timeouts. Yeah, it was. But hey, if you're going to be in one of those games, you may as well win it.
There you go.
Well, exactly. We were up there, and it was pretty subdued at our tailgate afterwards. They were, they're kind of just philosophical.
Did you have good tailgate food?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you have good tailgate food?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you have?
They had created a great big taco bar in town, and I made a taco bowl. So there was chicken with green chilies in it. There was hamburger meat. There was all the stuff to go on top of it. Somebody brought, the cheese and summer sausage tray.
Velveeta.
Chips. We had spicy pretzels. We had hot chocolate with schnapps in it. Let's see, beer, water, cider.
All right.
There was this other people that were in the same tailgate area, but not in our tailgate per se. They had the most elaborate setup I've ever seen. They had this a porta bar that had like 8 different kinds of alcohol in it, and they
and it was trademarked. I mean, it was a thing. It had a name like Bumper Buddy or Bar Buddy or Bumper Bar Buddy or something.
Incredible.
Like that. It's like there's somebody markets and manufactures this.
So anybody could go up there and consume their alcohol? Did you have to buy?
No, God, no.
Okay, I didn't know if you could pay for it or
no,
just for their friends.
This was for their private tailgate.
Okay.
But I mean, this was the most elaborate thing, and they had just a full-blown charcuterie over here too.
Oh yeah, huge charcuterie tray.
Unbelievable.
Special. They had a special, badger table, little round badger tables with bistro chairs that they put out. And yeah, it was something else.
And it was okay weather-wise. It was
okay.
Yeah, it quit raining. It was
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
It rained on us a little on the tailgate, and we went and stood under the tent that those people with the elaborate tailgate had set up. And then, but if Tom and I were in the seats where they usually put most of the Iowa fans, that top deck in the corner, it would have been really windy and really cold. But we weren't. We were in. Somebody that we know in Wisconsin, he sold us his tickets, so we were under the overhang a little bit, and we were out of the wind.
And about the 30-yard line, so they were really
about
good
the 30,
seats.
so we could see the whole field really well.
Yep.
That's good. Sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, only about 45 rows up, so it was pretty good. So, yeah, it was. It's always good to see Sheila and Eric. Always.
So how ironic is it that Wisconsin, known for beer consumption and over-consumption of said product, and Camp Randall doesn't sell it?
I think it's only a matter of time. I'm surprised it's taken this long.
But, I mean, doesn't it seem surprising?
It does seem surprising.
Well, their concourses, I don't know about the side where the great big beautiful press box is, but the other side where we were and where we always end up is a very, very narrow concourse.
It is.
It's as narrow, if not narrow.
Oh, no, it is very narrow. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And I'm not sure. And they can't go, how they kind of have a sidewalk between the street and the concourse where they set up the beer sales. They don't have that option.
No,
so
they don't.
I'm not quite sure where they do it. So, but that's not my problem.
Nope.
Anyway, I'm ringing off now.
All right.
I just wanted to share my observations from Saturday.
All right.
Good ones, too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
But, yeah, the stadium it's not as easy to navigate as Kinnick is. Like I said, the Iowa game day experience is about as convenient as it can be for the fans and the media. I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah, our tailgates are and a very short walk from our tailgate to
to be honest with you, I didn't mind I didn't like carrying the computer bag because I got this old leather bag. It doesn't have a shoulder strap, but it was 2.4 miles back and forth from the press box to our car. Some people, that doesn't really. You'd like to think they could get the media a little bit closer, but what the hell? It's just the media.
I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but I've noticed that Deacon has got to learn to throw around the defensive line. We're lucky he hasn't been intercepted.
We are.
5 times.
He gets too many things batted down for one, and no, he's.
Well, he's a backup for a reason. He doesn't move his feet much. He's not moving the pocket much. So yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see. Let's say they can't run Saturday. Let's say Minnesota just to shut their end. We've seen them not been able to run against average defense.
Yes, we have.
Well, then we'll see what Deacon can do.
Yeah, he needs to watch Brock Purdy for a little while.
Yeah, but
Boy, Brock Purdy didn't eat us up.
Yeah,
oddly enough.
I've already seen on tweet Caitlin Clark has more wins at Kinnick than Brock Purdy. All the people looking for the gotcha moments, stuff like that. Caitlin Clark only scored 3 less points than Iowa had passing yards. I've seen those tweets.
Well, she's got the only triple-double in Kinnick Stadium history.
But there's just all these people on Twitter. Hey, look at this gotcha moment. Come to my account. Praise on me for being great on Twitter. I mean, there's just so much of that.
Caitlin Clark has more wins than Brock Purdy and Kinnick. Is that what it
And didn't San Francisco lose yesterday?
Yeah,
they did. They lost to the Cleveland Browns, I think, 19-17. That's why you play the games, though. And I am a little concerned because I am so overly confident about Saturday's game against Minnesota. I'm usually not confident against Minnesota. This says more about Minnesota than Iowa. But like Don said, they will have had 2 weeks to prepare. So we'll see.
Well, they should have beaten us last year and didn't.
Yes. Music-wise, I did hear a couple excerpts of the new Dark Side. Good God.
Did you hear Money? We played it earlier.
He's just.
Or we played part of it.
He's just a freak.
What is? I didn't hear it.
Is that on?
Clark, Bluter, Lang, Hunter, Wild Rose,
Waters.
Cauldron.
You think Caitlin
Do you
Clark?
have it on there, Jim?
You think Roger Waters has heard of Caitlin Clark?
No.
If someone told him about her, what do you think he'd say? She's part of the evil deep
He
state.
might not have had it on there. He played it, or
No, I don't.
You think Caitlin Clark's heard of Roger Waters?
There's something up here that was just played. Do we know what that was? Would that have been it?
Maybe. Let's listen.
Do you want me to hit play again?
Hey, what the hell?
No.
No.
Oh, Hunter.
Hunter.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Hunter's watching out for us.
Yeah.
He's kind of like our guardian angel.
Good call, Jim.
Good call, Jim.
Yeah, but would he have copyrighted that? It's terrible.
What's worse, this or that Laura Trump thing on Tom Petty? What would you rather listen to?
It's like Roger Waters trying to imitate poorly Leon Redbone.
Oh, God.
It's really,
I was not a Leon Redbone. Didn't he do commercials?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he endorse? See, I never knew his music. He endorsed something, though, where he was on TV.
I can't remember.
A lot in the 70s and the 80s.
He was mean.
Oh, he was mean?
Yeah, he got in
he had to listen to his own music. You'd be mean, too.
Yeah, he got in an interview when our DJ, Lisa, while interviewing him, said, so what's your family like? And he goes, well, what's in your business? You know?
I'll bet that one went over well with Lisa.
Yeah, well, they ended up telling each other to go to hell a couple times.
I mean, I could argue that's private, but why do an interview then if you don't want to discuss it?
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't do the interview.
What do you do when you're not, performing?
Or then tell them what you want to talk about.
It's a throwaway
What's so
question.
annoying is those people that do interviews and then bitch about questions you ask them.
Yeah.
Don't do the interview.
It was a throwaway question. Hello.
Hey, dudes.
Hey.
Hey, Leon Redbone may have been an insufferable prick, but he did a hell of a Frosty the Snowman.
Oh, yeah, he did. You're right. He was a good Frosty.
Yeah, he couldn't hold Burl Ives' jock.
Oh. And, of course, being a Gen Xer, I grew up with Mr. Belvedere, so that one's always going to warm my heart.
Mr. Belvedere.
Did I grow up with Mr. Belvedere, or am I too old?
You might be too...
I never watched it. Was he the butler?
Yeah.
And he couldn't hold Mr. French's jock.
Mr. French sucked. That show
You would remember that was the sitcom that had Bob Uecker in it.
Mr. Belvedere?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw it. It must have run in the 80s. I didn't watch TV in the 80s.
Okay.
I didn't. I really did not watch much TV in the 1980s.
I didn't either because we were on the road, so we didn't have a chance to watch much.
Family Affair just sucked.
What's that? Oh, that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that strong a feeling.
No, that pissed me off. Jody spoke way too slowly. He pissed me off.
Did you like Mr. French?
Kinda.
I thought Mr. French made that show. Isn't that Brian Keith?
Yeah.
And then didn't the girl, didn't she die?
She died. Brian Keith committed suicide.
Brian Keith committed suicide?
Yeah.
Why?
Watch that show.
Yeah, Anissa Jones, wasn't that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had
real problems.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Wasn't it Buffy and Jody?
Yeah.
I mean, I did not. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. One last thing was, Suter, you were there for the crossover.
Yeah.
I would have to say on a scale of 1 to 10, Hawkeye fans were maybe a 5.5 to 6.25 on doing the jump around.
That's new to them.
They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's new to them.
Yeah.
Hell, they were just moving around.
I thought the wave was cool.
Yeah.
I think the DePaul players seem to really enjoy being part of that too.
Okay, now speaking of the wave, the Wisconsin fans did the actual wave, from the 70s.
Yeah.
What the hell? When was the last time you saw a wave?
When the rainbow guy was in the crowd.
Oh.
Yeah.
But the wave is cool.
Well, our wave is, but not the.
That's old. Yeah. I mean, that used to be neat 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But so did Beta.
But people don't do that anymore, and
VHS.
Wisconsin fans do it.
So was I.
You were neat 50 years ago?
I think so.
Okay.
I'd like to think so.
All right.
How is the wave going around a stadium not cool?
Well, because it's just dated.
I don't have
people
feelings.
don't do it
I'm
anymore.
okay with it. It's not like I don't really have an opinion about it.
Totally against.
People don't do it anymore.
I don't
dude.
care. I just don't care. If you want to do it, fine. That's your business.
I've got arthritis.
Yeah.
Well, have a great day, guys.
All
right, man.
This computer is very loud.
Yeah,
making some strange noises.
Gets that way.
I got to go. I have to meet my State Farm
cable
agent.
box.
I heard.
Is Jake the State Farm agent?
I called up.
No.
I call up MediaCom, and I can smell that it's something burned inside. Well, let me see if I can correct it. And I said, I don't think you can, because it smells like smoke. Well, let me try.
What was it?
20 minutes later, it smoked. It's raw.
On fire?
It ain't good. Hello.
Hey, guys. Was there a flyover up there at Camp Randall?
Yes, there was.
Yes, there was.
I was just curious because we were hiking about a half hour north, and they came screaming down past us, and that's what we were guessing as they were headed down to Madison. So
Yeah, no, it was a great environment, as usual.
And there was a flyover at the crossover at Kinnick, too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very
All right,
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, fellas.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm glad it didn't rain. I'm glad they were able to play it outside. It was a neat event. Now people are arguing about the Nebraska volleyball. There's people on Twitter pushing that crap. Which one's better? I mean,
what's their difference?
well, they had 98,000 at their volleyball.
Okay, but it's volleyball. This was basketball.
Well, they're saying that the 98's better than the 55. I mean,
it is.
Well,
it's
more.
But there's people trying to. You gotta. I don't. It's just
more
Twitter.
people.
It's just social media crap. People argue about anything, and then a lot of people will bring up stuff because they want to bring attention to themselves and they want to immerse themselves in both. Yeah, there were more people. There were 40,000 more people at the volleyball.
But this set the record for the most people
at a basketball game. And I'll tell you what, I respect those. There was a lot of fans there that did not have very good seats. The ones, I mean, I give them credit for going there and being a part of it, because it would have been a lot easier to stay at home and watched it on TV, because the TV did a nice broadcast of it. But no, I give those fans credit, because, I mean, the ones like on the 50-yard line and beyond to the south, those weren't great seats.
No.
But they were still there cheering it on, and I think that's cool.
It was great to be a part of it.
No, it was.
Yeah.
It really was. And like I said, hats off to – you think Burka made it all possible? Was it all the work of Josh?
I think
Burka?
Josh did everything.
Yeah.
Josh and
100%.
Josh
Josh
and
and that guy in the red hat.
the guy in the red hat, yeah. Was he there?
I
didn't see him.
I didn't see him.
But no, I thought the wave
That
was,
would have been great.
I thought the wave was really – now, Wisconsin had the red hat guy, and, I'm sure they hate him too, because those timeouts took forever.
Well, their fans
Fox.
Their fans have short fuses.
Yeah.
Real short.
Well, like I said, if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I'm a little worried about – life's been pretty good for Wisconsin fans since Barry took over.
Well,
I mean, even Gary Anderson won 10 games in the 1 or 2 years he was there 1 year. I mean, and say what you want about Christ, he still won a lot of games. Brett won 3 Big Ten. I mean, it's been pretty good, and it's going to be interesting to see what Luke Fickell does with this, because he could really screw a good thing up if he's not careful. I think he's a good coach, but that to me looked like a team that's playing an offense that it's not ready to play right now.
Well, he doesn't have the right personnel.
No,
for it.
but it's not going to be easy to recruit the right personnel either.
No, it's not.
So, I mean, I don't know. Can we assume Mordecai probably has another year left? Because it seems like everybody has another year left.
I would assume so.
I mean, if you came into school before 2020,
he was at SMU, right?
For 4 or 5 years, I think.
I mean, he threw for like 9,000 yards.
He threw for 3,500 in each of the past 2 seasons, over 7,000 in the last 2. So I'm not sure if this is his 5th, but it just doesn't seem to matter. It seems like everybody has another year.
They do.
It just seems like everybody has another year left. So we'll see. So I think we've covered everything. I got to go meet my state.
So?
I got to meet my State Farm agent here in 15 minutes. It's my yearly review. I hope they're not telling me. I mean, home rates aren't going. Nothing's gone up really dramatically, have they? Our home insurance rates?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's not Florida. Oh, another call.
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was in Madison 2 years ago, and I noticed that the students that student section didn't fill up till halftime or even like part of the third quarter.
That's how it works.
Did they show up now or not?
No, they come in single file. We talked about that a little bit earlier. They come in single file, and it takes them forever to fill that up.
Yeah, it was weird. I'm like they want to get there just in time for the jump around in the fourth quarter, but there's no rush. So,
it is weird, for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's a lot of reasons for, there's a lot going on outside the stadium. And I think 2 years ago was an 11 o'clock game, but still I was like, man, they were in no rush to actually see the product.
That's how they do it.
Field,
yeah.
That's the process.
Nope, all right.
AP poll.
Thanks, man.
AP men's poll came out, and I'm only seeing 2 big. Illinois 25th and Purdue 4th. Oh, no, Michigan State. So there's 3 Big Ten teams. Michigan State 3rd, Purdue 4th, Kansas number 1. Gee, Duke number 2. There's a shock. Marquette number 5, UConn number 6, Houston number 7, Creighton number 8. Remember, Iowa plays at Creighton at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's probably one that I'll be covering from home because it doesn't. I mean, to be there, it doesn't give you any advantage when you're going to a press conference at 11:15, and you're. Yeah, I'll probably watch that one from home. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to look and see, and I'm trying to see if there's any SMC. That would be St. Mary's College. San Diego State is 17th. Not seeing anything else, but Illinois is 25th. I find that kind of interesting. So this, on paper, is not a great year for Big.
No.
Fran would vehemently disagree, but I mean, this could be a year that Iowa maybe has some success because I don't think the Big Ten's loaded. But.
I think I think it was ESPN's ranking had Iowa ranked 50th,
and I see Iowa anywhere from 5th to 9th in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's pretty much the case every year, you can say.
And I think that's probably fairly
Well,
accurate.
if they get in the 5, 6, 7, 8, they're probably in the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, you go 9, 10, then you're risking it. I mean, but if you're in the top 8 or 7, you're most likely going to make the NCAA tournament.